They're not.
What?
I was wondering if
You're covered. She knows what's up.
you're right.
Good morning,
pal. Lonzo is a superstar.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another, I hope, rousing rendition of the Rob Brown Show.
Well, there's confidence right there. What do you mean you hope? Come on, go to kill it today.
There are days, great one, and this one may shock you just a little bit. There are days that I know that it's not the show is going to be bad, because let's be real, there's never a day the show's bad. There's days the show's less good.
The show has won multiple awards.
Thus it has. And we're not done. I won 4 just so we can do the cool pose, the 4-up pose. That's not why I'm a bit whatever I am right now. Apprehensive, riddled with anxiety.
So
however you want to describe it.
Not melancholy, not angry.
I'm actually perfectly fine. In fact, I'm quite excited. I'm quite excited about the show at large. What I'm not excited about is what I think is a down the line inevitability. And that down the line inevitability is the blowback that I am going to get from a very particular subsection of Clemson Tiger fans today. And here's why I know that that is an inevitability. Because yesterday, Dabo Swinney got in front of the microphone for 57 minutes. That's not a problem. It's a press conference. In fact, as a media member, I appreciate a coach, because very few are, who is willing to get on the podium and in front of a microphone, and do 57 minutes of breakdown on his football team. That's great. And I applaud that, and I appreciate that from Dabo Swinney. The blowback, I think, inevitably, that is coming down the line from a certain subsection of Clemson Tiger fans is by what I am going to say about that 57-minute press conference. There is a phrase that the kids are using nowadays. And as the kids.
To win games, you have to win the game, not lose the game.
Is that what the kids are saying?
That is partially what the kids are saying.
Okay.
As somebody who is still the kids, I can tell you that I'm using this phrase accurately and correctly. Dabo yesterday.
What are you going to do?
Dabo yesterday had what the kids would call a crash out. Some of you would refer to it.
Is that really what they call that?
Yeah, it's a crash out now.
Okay.
It used to be called a meltdown.
All right.
Now it's called a crash out. Dabo had, in my ever so humble yet frequently correct opinion, what I would refer to, what the kids would refer, what those of us who are cool, hip, young, and still have it. Definitely not squares.
Thank you for teaching me. I'll never use crash out, probably.
I'm here to help. I'm here to make everyone's life better, Alonzo.
Now I can understand
yours.
the Utes better.
I am here to make everyone's life better, including yours.
You're my Ute liaison.
So Dabo had what I would call a crash out yesterday. And I was a little miffed about it. Not that he had the crash out. I was miffed that he did it so late in the day, because I knew that by the time we got back on the air this morning, most of you that care about that college football program would be saying, I'm tired of hearing this, Rob. Everyone is talking about it. Josh Pate talked about it on his show last night. ESPN did like a whole damn thing on it just a little while ago on SportsCenter. I know that everybody who does college football, who broadcasted yesterday afternoon or evening, has already had a crack at this. I haven't. So buckle up, Buttercup. We're going to talk about it. Because I do think it is justified to call what happened yesterday a crash out. I do think it is justified to say what happened yesterday was, if you prefer the word, a meltdown. I do think what happened yesterday was something that we can talk about and say, on one hand, some of the things that Dabo said yesterday in his press conference, and I sat in front of my computer this AM to pull sound from that press conference, and it is quite literally all that I did this morning. When I walk in the building in the morning, usually it's somewhere between 4:35 and 4:45. When I walk in the building in the morning, if there is sound or audio or whatever that I had not pulled from the night before, that's the first thing I do when I walk in the door. I write our sports flash, and then I grab the audio that I want to grab. And a lot of that audio is stuff that I pull from social media or stuff that comes in post-game, when games are happening at night, whatever. I send those to myself, I get in, and I record them in the morning. And it's usually a process that takes 30 minutes or so, because it's recorded, it's edited, it's cleaned it up, it's bleeped the stuff that needs to be bleeped, et cetera, et cetera. And normally I have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 clips I've got to get through. We don't use them all, but I'd rather have them and not use them than want to use them and not have them. This morning, I decided that, or last night I should say, I decided that I was going to wait until I got into the office this morning to do the audio from Dabo Swinney's press conference. And it was for one primary reason. It was because the press conference was 57 minutes long, posted on Clemson's Athletics Department YouTube channel. And as I was watching and listening to different podcasts and online shows and commentary and commentators and whatnot last night talk about it, everybody was using the same 3, 4, 5 sound bites. And I thought to myself, because I take pride in not being a hot take artist. I despise doing it. I don't want to do it. I would do it if there's enough zeros on the paycheck, but I better feel like a dirty, rotten lady of the night. That's how much you need to pay me in order to do hot take radio. As I listen to all these shows and all these podcasts from people that I actually have an affinity for, Josh Pate being one of them, I realized everybody was using the same 3, 4, 5 clips from that press conference. And I said, this was a 57-minute press conference, and I've heard the same 2 or 3 minutes over and over. So I want to wait. I want to watch the thing in its entirety, and I want to go in tomorrow, and I want to try to pull clips from this that the other shows have not run into the ground. I want to pull clips from this that don't make me feel, because again, these clips were being played by hosts and on shows that normally don't do that. They're not the type of show that is somebody who watches these press conferences, listens to these press conferences. I can tell you when some outlets, and we're actually going to do this with the Mike McDaniels clip that Lonzo played a moment ago, the Mike McDaniel clip, no S, it's just the one McDaniel. With the Mike McDaniel clip that Lonzo played a moment ago, I want to prove my point. In fact, I'm probably going to do that before we get to the Dabo Clemson thing, which is coming up here in just a little while.
I apologize for playing that before because you didn't play it yesterday, so I thought.
No. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did, because you hit the highlight of the clip. That is what people are spreading around. And it's fair because it's very funny.
Oh, there's definitely more to it afterwards. Suddenly the lackadaisical thing from the beginning is gone and he actually talks out afterwards.
We are going to get to that because after Mike McDaniel, when the Dolphins dropped the game on the road this past England, it's not past England, it's New England. When they dropped the game this past weekend against New England, Mike McDaniel took to the microphone. And Mike's on the struggle bus right now. Mike is now a minus money favorite to be the first NFL coach fired this go round. So Mike got to the microphone and Mike laid down about a 2.5 minute answer about what went wrong for the Miami Dolphins. And what has been making the rounds in the social media sphere, what has been making the rounds in the sports entertainment world is about a 15-second clip. Actually, do you have it readily available on? So could you play that clip for me one more time if you have it right there at your fingertips?
To win games, you have to win the game, not lose the game.
Yeah.
And I actually chopped it up a little bit. There were some
yeah.
in there. So
There's a lot of that from Mike. And again, when you're running the number 2, number 1 offense in the league and you're going to the playoffs in back-to-back years, even if you are losing the first game in them, if you're going to the playoffs, you're running a highly explosive offense, you can be a nerd guy. And that's totally fine. You can't do it when you're 0-2, you're getting your ass whipped, and you're losing your first divisional game to send you directly to the cellar before the season even really gets going. But what I will defend Mike McDaniel on here is that was about a 10-second clip from about a 2.5 minute answer that was a coach genuinely giving us his genuine take on what went wrong for his team that day and the reason that he feels they lost the game. And when we finally have a coach that is willing to grab a microphone and say, here's what went wrong, not platitudes, not bull crap, not excuses, but is willing to grab the mic and go, here's why we were bad today. Here's what we did wrong. Football, X's and O's, Jimmy's and Joe's, here's what went wrong. And actually put it on tape. We should get into that. In fact, we should celebrate that. Even if it is a bad coach of a bad team, we should say, at least, thanks for being honest, dog. But instead, what we get is out of a 2.5 minute answer, an 8-second sound clip that makes Mike McDaniel look like a big dummy when he actually gave a pretty, I thought out, nuanced response. Well, I thought these guys have got to be doing this to Dabo, right? I get it. And I've told you Clemson fans before, outside of this area, Dabo is not a not well-liked. That's not the right phrase. Dabo is made fun of with great regularity outside of this area.
He's a smirk from everywhere. Oh, there he is. And just kind of, oh,
yes,
yeah, it's him. He's a smirk everywhere.
He's considered a yokel or a this or a that or whatever. And when you are 1-2 for the first time since 2014, of course, people are going to pile on like that. So when I saw this presser, when I saw the reaction to this presser, because I did not watch the presser in real time when it was happening. When I saw the reaction to it, I said, this man was at the podium for 57 minutes, and I have got 3 minutes of quotes out of this. I need to go see what really happened, because the goal for me tomorrow is going to be, you've got him for 2.5, 3 minutes crashing out, but it was 54 minutes of talking football, talking Jimmy's and Joe's, X's and O's, what went right, what went wrong, what we can do better, what we did well, yada, yada, yada. So I went late last night. Let me tell you how much trouble I get myself in. The wife is currently in a car on the way to GSP. She's flying up to the Hamptons until Monday for a bachelorette trip. Then she turns around.
Do you know what that statement sounds like?
No.
My wife is flying up to the Hamptons.
She didn't. It's not her bachelorette party.
No. Well, let's hope not.
She did hers at a all-inclusive in the Dominican.
Ah, that's better.
Step down from the Hamptons.
Better.
She's on her way to the airport to go out of town until Monday. She will return on Monday for about 12 hours. And then she goes over next week. She goes over to Charleston Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for a work function. So last night was the last night I have with my wife, who I like more than all of you, even Lonzo.
Hopefully you love her more than all of us, but you know.
I love and like her more than all of you, including Lonzo. Last night was the last night I have with my wife until next Friday night when she returns from Charleston. You know what I did last night? When my wife was laying in the bed, making sure her itinerary was set and her stuff was packed correctly, and she was texting the girls going to the bachelorette party to make sure that they got their stuff together. And well, this is that theme night, and Tuesday is tennis dress day, and tomorrow is blue dress day. We're all wearing blue dresses to go out, and then the night after that is vineyard day. Like, we got to get our stuff together. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm kind of jealous. It sounds amazing. All right, I think, fellas, we need more theme night stuff.
Sounds expensive is what it sounds.
We need more theme night stuff. All right. Now, ours can be dumb. You know what I really want to do? Somebody brought this idea to me last night when I was having this conversation. I'm like, shit, like, wife had to go to Target because she needed to get a blue dress for blue dress night. And I said, that's very understandable. All right, it's theme night. Here's what one of the buddies, when I was telling him that, he said, you know what we need to do? We need a fellas theme night. Came up with a great theme night. You know what the theme night idea is? A gaggle of Tom Cruises. We all go out bar hopping one night, but all of us are dressed as different Tom Cruise movie characters.
Okay.
Tell me you don't want in on that.
I'm too fat to be in a Tom Cruise night.
No, you'd be Tom Cruise from Tropic Thunder. You'd be Les Goodman.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
You know how hurt that is?
Right there.
I could dance like that, though, for sure.
I want to be obscure one. I want to be Tom Cruise from Cocktail. I want to throw shakers in the air all night.
How's that obscure? That was a great movie.
I don't disagree, but like, the kids don't know Cocktail. I'd just be a weirdo in a suit with a vest on.
Hey, what's her name from Karate Kid? Why did I forget her name? She went from Karate Kid and then she just got hot. And then last time I saw her, she got burnt to death by Homelander.
She just got hot.
Yeah.
Lucky her. The point here is,
she was also in Leaving Las Vegas. Man, I hate when I can't remember.
It was the last night I had with the wife until next Friday night. And while she was sitting there, like, going through her stuff, was I sitting there helping her, going through the checklist, looking through and make, all right, you get this? Did you have that? Did you think of this? Which is what I normally do. No. I was laying in bed watching an hour of a Dabo Sweeney press conference so that I could make sure that I wasn't, when I talk about him in a little while, taking him out of context, so that I today could come in here and, if required and necessary, defend Dabo Sweeney from the people who were beating him up yesterday by quoting 2 or 3 minutes out of a 57-minute press conference. And I'm going to some degree do that.
Elizabeth Shue, by the way.
She did get hot. You're absolutely correct. I am going to some degree do that. But I am also going to say, after having watching that press conference, those guys have a point. Those guys have a point. And I think the biggest takeaway for me was that if I was a Clemson fan that was unhappy with the results so far this season, I'd feel attacked by what Dabo said yesterday. It's like he effectively called a large chunk of you yesterday bad fans for being unhappy about the first 1-2 start since 2014. And he said, well, wait a minute. It's the worst start since 2014. Why are we beating up because you have raised the standard. You know what the biggest thing about raising standards is? You're expected to make that the standard. I've made the joke for a very long time that's not really a joke. I tell people, it's a joke, but it's not really. Do not go above and beyond at work without being compensated for it. Why? Because once you go above and beyond, doing it again is not going above and beyond anymore. Now it's part of who you are at work. It's expected of you. And so if you go above and beyond without being compensated for it, now that is the expectation, and you can't ask for more. They're going to go, that's part of your job. You've been doing that. No. You raise the standard. You also get paid $11 million a year to do it. So maybe don't attack the fans who say, that's not good enough. Where we are right now is not good enough. All right, we're going to get heavy into this coming up on the radio show. We're going to talk some Braves ball. We're going to talk some South Carolina. Is it me, or is it shockingly quiet out of South Carolina right now? Like, is this the least we've heard them?
Do we know about Lenore Sellers yet?
Do or don't.
Everyone's holding their breath waiting on that.
Sure thing, but do or don't. It is stunningly quiet out of Columbia right now. I want to get to that. We'll talk a little WNBA playoffs and more, all coming up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Let's go.
I will.
All right, guys, good morning. Chris, good to see you, my brother. Jersey Joe, y'all stay right there. Live read coming right back. Dabo Swinney. Now, the meat and potatoes we're going to get to a little bit later in the show. But since we started here, I think it's only fair to talk about the part that I think a lot of people skipped over of this press conference. There was quite a bit of time that I think Dabo Swinney was genuinely talking football and was expressing, and I thought fairly, concerns about it. Now, this is a bit of a longer clip here, and I'm not supposed to play longer clips, but I'm going to in this one regard because I think that it is important. I think that it is important that while it is absolutely fair to say that in the middle of this press conference, Dabo Swinney, in my ever so humble opinion, did indeed, again, as the kids say, crash out. I also think that there was a lot of this press conference that's not being discussed and talked about, where Dabo Swinney was, I thought, reflective, where I thought Dabo Swinney was effective in communication, where I thought he was appropriate in answering, responding to questions. In fact, I think he came right out of the gate. This is the opening. This was not a response to a question. This was, thanks for coming out, everybody. Glad to have you here. We're going to have an opening statement from Coach Swinney. Then we'll take some Q&A. But, Coach Swinney, the podium is yours.
Just excited to have another opportunity this week. Obviously, we've not had the start that we hoped for, worked for, to this point. But just first quarter. We got a lot of football left, a lot of opportunity left, and so we'll kick off the second quarter this week, and still looking for our best game. Still looking for 4 quarters of complimentary football. We've not done that yet. And we've seen it in spots. We played the first half of LSU game, 2 quarters of good complimentary football, and then the last half of the Troy game, 2 quarters of good complimentary football. But outside of that, we just haven't put it together, and that's what it's going to take for us to kind of get back on track. So another great opportunity this week to go play and see if we can find a way to win a game. And that's really our focus, is just trying to play our best game, trying to, continue to learn and grow from mistakes and things we got to do better, know that we can do better. But I know that, for us, there's a lot of disappointment, where we are at this point. But again, they don't cancel the season after the first quarter. They don't call a football game off after the first quarter. We got a long way to go, but it doesn't get any easier. Every game is a battle, and we're definitely, got our backs against the wall, and we put ourselves in a hole, and we got to find a way to get ourselves out of it. And you just got to do it, one week at a time, one play at a time, and that's really what our deal is right now. We just need one more play, one more score, one more stop. But I love how the guys have responded this week. And love our team, our staff. It's a group of people that are together and know what we got to go do. But again, doesn't get any easier. Syracuse is a really good football team. They're undefeated in the league. So, we know, hey, we've got a loss in the league. So we got zero room for error. So we've got to find a way to win a ball game. And Syracuse is coming in here off of 2 good wins, and one of them in overtime. They're a very tough football team, well coached. Fran is a guy that I got a lot of respect for, and his team plays really hard. I mean, these guys are physical. They are physical as crap on both sides of the ball. They fly around, and we'll get after you.
Okay. Like that's fine. That's a press conference of a 1-2 football coach who entered the year with higher expectations than 1-2 through the first 3, that entered the year with higher expectations than 0 wins against Power 5 teams, that entered the year with expectations, even if I told you all Georgia Tech's a good team and that's an upset alert game, you still expected to win that game. I picked you to win that game. Even saying all summer, like, I am mad at myself. I said this last night on BetMGM tonight. I was mad at myself for not having the rocks to just pick Georgia Tech outright in the upset. I did get them at the +3.5 before it dropped to 2.5. So that was nice. But I was mad at myself that I didn't have the stones to go on the air and create the go viral social media clip saying, y'all, Georgia Tech's going to win this game. I wish I would have done that because I did think it was a very winnable game for Georgia Tech. Even if Clemson played the way that Clemson is expected to play, I still think Georgia Tech could have won that game, but I picked you. And this is the response of a coach who had the expectations fairly of go and win that game. Even if you're 2-1 with a loss to LSU, you go, hey, it's a top 3 team now. Like, fine. Yeah, we lost it. It was a close game, 1-score game, whatever. Now, I think you get around by saying, because I'm going to play another clip for you later on where somebody asked about the defense and he's like, how many we give up against LSU? 17? That's enough to win, right? It's like, it probably should have been 24, like touchdown off the board, but whatever. We're not going to hang on that. The take there is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that is the reason that to some degree, I will defend Dabo, because I do think that clip, that's not really sexy for radio. That's a clip I'll get in trouble for playing because it's not sexy. It's not controversial. It's pretty standard stuff. But the point is, that was a 2.5, 3 minute opening statement to a press conference that all anybody's talked about is, oh, Dabo crashed out. Yeah, he did, but he spent a good amount of time talking and discussing football like a normal football coach in a disappointing situation. I think he deserves some level of credit for that.
The only thing I will say is tonally, he didn't sound disappointed enough. Tonally, he didn't sound defeated enough for them being where they are record-wise with the expectations.
I think that's fair, but I also try. Let me be Rob Brown, the woke warrior here for a minute. I try not to tone police people. I try not to say to people, you don't sound the way I think you should sound based on this emotion. Now, I'm going to turn around and immediately do that to Dabo Swinney coming up here in a few minutes. But I try not to do that. If I'm sad about a situation, I don't demand that other people be sad or sound sadder about the situation, right? Like something I find disappointing happens. If we come in the next day and I'm disappointed about the thing and Lonzo's like, yeah, whatever, happy Monday, let's have a day. I'm not like, Zoe, you should be sadder right now. You don't sound sad enough for me. Like that's subjective. But on the flip side,
that sounds like something that's actually happened before.
Constantly. Are we not to bring this into it? Are we not kind of having a national debate about that right now? Right?
We are.
It's kind of a national perspective right now.
As far as this show is concerned, there are times you come in and I know I got to do everything I can to bring you up because of your tone. I can see your tone. I can see body language. And I know you had a rough weekend or you stayed up too late. Got to do whatever I can to try to bring you up and get you to a place that is the standard of the show.
Sure.
There is a standard for Clemson that you mentioned earlier that Dabo Swinney has built. You can't come in and go, you know what, guys, we lost. I wouldn't disagree. It's kind of a, I don't know why you're mad. It's just football because that's the kind of tone that it seemed like.
I think there is a clip we're going to get to a little bit later on in the show that applies to perfectly. 100% applies to that. This one, not so much. And I will also say that the reason that Clemson has the standard they have, remember, there's a 40-friggin-foot long banner that hangs over the practice facility that says what? Best is the standard. There's a clip later that I'm going to play for you where Dabo says, why are we held to a higher standard than everybody else? Buddy, you said it. You have a 40-foot long banner that says best is the standard. So that's why you're the one that said it. But I would also make the point that the reason that best is the standard, the reason that the standard is the standard, the reason they got to where this is the standard and these expectations are the expectations is because of Dabo Swinney. And so it's like, there's this part of me that's like, do you really want to beat up on a guy who got him to the point that now it feels like we need to beat up on the guy? But I'm going to say yes. And I'll tell you why coming up in a minute. The reason is because he kind of went after the fans to some degree. And I know that because a Clemson fan reached out to me to bring it up on the air today. So we're going to do that coming up later on in the show. We've talked some Clemson. We're going to play the clips for you in the next hour. I'm going to talk South Carolina when we come back here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stay right there. I do have a little bit more audio to upload, so we'll be right back. Please, let me talk into the microphone so you can hear me. Don't go anywhere. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. Is it me, or has it been unusually quiet out of Columbia, South Carolina this week? And I get it to some degree. You are disappointed in the loss to Vanderbilt. Another team that I said last week, yes, South Carolina fans, this ain't your daddy's Vanderbilt. Hell, this ain't even your older brother's Vanderbilt. This is a new Vanderbilt team. You are on upset alert. You guys could play the best football game you'll play all year. And I tried to warn you, this is the Diego Pavia game. Like, this is the game that dude is built for. He is built for hearing all year long, and especially through 2 weeks of the season, that QB on the other side of you, he's the man, dog. He heard it about Jalen Milroe last year, and he went out there and dogged him, right? When you tell that guy, that dude across from you, he's the star of this game, not you. When you have an off season, and I know this happened because I played you multiple clips from multiple talking heads in the college football broadcasting industry who said Willie B is a special home field advantage. And as somebody who has been very fortunate to travel to a lot of college football stadiums over my lifetime, many as a fan, some in the capacity as a broadcaster, but honestly, most of them as a fan. And I prefer to go to games as a fan because, to me, what makes college football great is the experience, the atmosphere, the environment, the fans, the bands, the cheerleaders. I just don't have as much fun. I'll do it when I am doing it for a team that I cover closely and I feel like I can provide y'all with better access than I would be able to if I was sitting in section 121. I will do it in that case. But if I'm going to Tennessee, which I hope at some point, that's next up on my SEC travel list, is Neyland Stadium. If I'm going to Neyland Stadium for a game, I want to go as a fan. I want to go hang out with the Navy. I want to go tailgate. I want to be in the section. I want to hear, 102,000 people singing Rocky Top 97 times a quarter. I want to be there for that because that's the college football experience. So as somebody who's been as a fan to a lot of stadiums across these great United States of America, I would say Willie B is absolutely a very special home field advantage. There's something different about it. When you guys pack out the stadium and you're loud about it, which I've also been to a game there where that wasn't necessarily the case and there's a marked difference. But when that place is packed, electric, jumping, it is a very special home field advantage. A guy like Diego Pavia, a guy like Clark Lee, a team like Vanderbilt, they don't see that as, all right, guys, like, we've got to mentally prepare. We've got to get ourselves ready to go in there and take on this crowd. No. They have the mentality of we're going to go in there and shut them the hell up. We're going to go in there and punch them in the mouth and make it to where the fans don't have anything to cheer for. Because how do you keep a quarterback from balling out on you? You run long possessions, you keep his ass on the bench. Can't score touchdowns when you're on your butt, right? It's kind of the same thing. How do you make sure that a home crowd advantage does not have an impact on the game? You go out, you stun them early, you take them out of the game so that it's just a regular away game. So that was my warning. You lost that game. You also lost that game. Anybody who says, well, losing Lenore Sellers is an excuse. No, it's not. It's a reason. It's a reason you lost. There are reasons and there are excuses. I've said this 1,000 times to you guys. Reasons are when something goes bad and it is caused by something that is outside of your control. Excuses are when a situation goes bad and it is caused by something that is within your control. You do not have control of the fact that Lenora Sellers took a pop to the side of the head and went down with what is apparently a concussion. You don't have any control over that. You do have control over how hard you fight. You do have control over whether or not you come out and respond and go win one for the Gipper. And I've already said, You didn't do that. You didn't like that team. The one thing I did not think I would question in the 2025 season was the heart, the grit, whatever football cliche you want to use here of the South Carolina Gamecock football team. I said, you're going to go into this season and there will be, I would say, minimum 6 games you are going to be an underdog. 6 games where the other team across from you on paper is just better than you. But I think you can win 3. If you have a hell of a season, maybe 4 of those 6 games where on paper you are not the better team because you go out there and you've got a fight in you that other teams don't have. I didn't see that. And I think the reason, I thought about this a little bit yesterday. I think the reason that I am a little bit stunned, shocked by this even more is because as much as we are talking about the Dabo Sweeney press conference and Dabo perhaps respectfully saying too much yesterday, and again, I'll get to the rest of that press conference audio coming up in the next hour. While I am sitting here saying I think perhaps Dabo said too much yesterday, is it me or is just nothing coming out of Columbia, right? And the reason we're talking about Dabo is because there was all this preseason conversation, and there was Cade's going to be that guy, and we've got a wide receiver room now, and I know there's been a number of injuries, and I'm going to talk about this later on in the show. But I know there's been a number of injuries that have genuinely impacted Clemson's season so far to the negative. Obviously, they're injuries. Nobody gets hurt and gets better because of it. You get the point. With South Carolina, the injury is Lenora Sellers. And even as somebody who came into the year saying, whether you like it or whether you don't, the reality about this football team is, and Lonzo called me out appropriately for this on Monday when I was talking about heart and fight and disappointment and all that. The take in the offseason was, I like this team. I think it's got as much talent on it as it's had, with the exception of the defensive backfield last year. As much talent as an overall roster as you've had in a very long time. But as goes Lenora Sellers, go the Gamecocks. If we are right that he is a Heisman Trophy finalist, you are a threat to grab the 11 or 12 seed in the playoffs. If we are wrong and he's just a freak athlete, but not a great football player, which we see those guys every now and then, freak athletes, but not necessarily tuned up to be a great football player. If that's the description of Lenora Sellers we use at the end of the year, you're going to be 8-4, 7-5, and you're going to be disappointed. And it's going to be back to the drawing board for Shane Beamer. However, even if that is the case, I still expected that there was going to be a tone about this team, a voice from this team, a message of this team. And I kind of thought, especially yesterday, as we have reached the point now where, because we haven't really gotten an update about Lenora Sellers or his availability for this weekend, and I'm not going to speculate on that because I don't know. Nobody does. They haven't said anything. But as we have gotten to the point now where the deeper we go into the week and nobody provides an update, the less confident I am that he is available. Now, I will also bring up very quickly, keep in mind, we had a little dispute last year between South Carolina and Missouri. Last year was the first year that the SEC required the football teams to start putting out their injury reports throughout the week. This guy's doubtful, questionable, day-to-day, whatever. And last year, it was it the running? I don't even remember off the top of my head, but either the running back or the quarterback, Mizzou kind of Bill Belichicked last year, because all week long it was questionable. And then Saturday rolls around and again, quarterback, running back, I don't remember who it was, but one of their players last year, questionable all week long. Game day rolls around, day-to-day, game time decision. Goes out there, looks healthy as a horse, and balls TF out. And Shano was pretty upset about it. He's like, what the hell's the point of these injury reports if we're not going to use them accurately, reflect them correctly. So I do wonder if perhaps, maybe, this is a little return gamesmanship from Shane Beamer. I don't think that's the case, but I'm not going to say it's definitely not the case because, again, let's not pretend that.
It's also a concussion. And no,
I agree.
And all concussions are different.
I agree. That's why I'm saying, like, this is speculation from me at absolute best. At absolute best. And maybe it's almost to some degree optimism because, again, I think if Lenoris doesn't play on the road, that's not that you can't beat Missouri, but they will be favored if there's no Lenoris Seller. So I'm almost hoping Shane-O is being a little bit gamesmanshipy here and is going to do the same thing. Lenoris is questionable all week long. Saturday, he rolls out of the tunnel looking like $1 million. We'll find out. But as somebody who had the take all off season of as goes Lenoris, go the Gamecocks, and I'm still sticking on that. At the same time, I also think that the culture you are working to build at South Carolina, and this culture 1,000% works in college football. It has worked forever in college football. It worked when Bobby Bowden brought it to Florida State. It worked when Dabo Swinney brought it to Clemson. The anybody, anytime, anywhere, we will roll out whatever we got and we'll come get you. And this week, after a disappointing loss where Dabo Swinney is doing a 57-minute press conference. Yeah, again, say whatever you want to say about crash out meltdown. It's being too harshly criticized, not harshly criticized enough. He did go to the mic yesterday and spend 57 minutes talking to the media, talking to the fans through the media. We're not hearing anything out of South Carolina, unless I'm just missing stuff, but I don't think I am. It's my job not to. I'm not hearing anything right now. And for a team that, yes, South Carolina, and this is not a shot, though some people have told me they take it as one. This is not a shot. What is going to, if South Carolina is going to one day prove that they are in the upper echelon of the SEC or the national picture or whatever, if you're going to get to that point, you are going to do it as a program that establishes a very particular culture with a very particular tone and voice to it. And silence is not that culture. Being quiet is not. I'm not saying you got to come out and go, we're going to whip Missouri's ass, brother. Like, you don't have to, like, come out and cut promos on Mizzou. But to just suddenly have this team that has always done the social media videos and has always had a coach going up to the microphone and going, we're disappointed, but we're confident. We're going to be fine. We're going to get it right. We did this. We're going to do that, yada, yada, yada. To just go off the radar. Like, what is going to make South Carolina into a top-tier upper echelon program is always putting yourself on the radar and then chipping away at reaching the point where your performance matches that. And so to come off that L and have a, to me, must-win game against Vandy this weekend and be radio dark, I don't like it. Not even a little bit. Water cooler cheat sheet next. Then we'll spend a good chunk of the next hour running through the Dabo press conference because I think he attacked Clemson fans in a way that I'm not a fan of. I'll tell you what I mean when we come back. In the meantime, if there was a national championship for sports flashes, Lonzo would have won all of them. No questions asked.
Even that one year when I was having an off year. Yeah. The Atlanta Braves played a doubleheader against the Nationals yesterday, making up a rain game from back in May. In game one, Jose Suarez went 7 innings with 5 hits and 2 runs allowed while striking out 9 for a 6-3 win. In game two, Atlanta shut out Washington for a 5-0 extra innings win. Chris Sale threw 8 with 3 hits, striking out 9. Seattle Mariners won their 10th straight, and catcher Kyle Raleigh set more records in a 12-5 win over Kansas City. Raleigh hit his 55th homer of the season in the second inning, passing Mickey Mantle's single-season homer record for switch hitters. Las Vegas Aces' 17-game win streak ended one shy of tying the all-time mark set by the 2001 LA Sparks with an 86-83 loss in Game 2 of their series against the Seattle Storm. Storm closed the game on a 16-4 run. Asia Wilson had a 21.13 rebound double-double in the loss. It is Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Way to go, you.
I got to tell you, The head's swirling this AM. We got a lot going on. And it's one of these shows, especially this hour of the show, because we are going to get into some of the audio from the 57, 54-ish, whatever it was, minutes that Dabo Swinney talked yesterday. This was kind of the primary topic. It's going to be the primary topic the majority of the day today. Because I didn't watch the press conference live. Ordinarily, what I do is when there is a press conference from a head coach that we cover, ordinarily what I will do is I'll just, if it's on when I'm in a spot where I can take a break and watch it, I will. This one wasn't, unfortunately. So I will go back at night and I will watch it, listen to it, and pull bites out of it as they happen, as they jump off the page at me. But last night, wife was getting ready. She's on vacation for like a week and a half. Well, she's on half a vacation and then going out of town for work the back half of next week. Wanted to spend time with her. And as she was packing, and I was just trying to stay out of her way for the part that I couldn't help with, I was checking in on the different, podcasters and radio shows and writers and reporters that I like or that I don't like, just to kind of see what the conversation is. And this Dabo Swinney press conference was it yesterday. I mean, everybody was on this thing yesterday. And as I mentioned back in the first hour, I heard like the same handful of clips that were being played. And I said, for a 50, it was 50. I just went and checked. It's 54 minutes he was at the podium, over 54 minutes. For a press conference that lasted over 54 minutes. It's kind of odd to me that we're using everybody's using the same 2, 3, 4 clips to take pot shots at Dabo Swinney. And nationally, this dude takes enough criticism. I have never felt the need to pile on. But at the same time, just like with any head coach, including buddy of the show, Shane Beamer, when criticism is valid and deserved, it's going to be delivered on this show. We're not going to kiss anybody's butt. At the same time, I'm not going to make it personal when it's just football. I don't want it to be personal. I don't want to be one of these people that feels like the next time Dabo Swinney sits down with us to have a conversation, I better have my head on because I know he's gonna come after me, right? I think criticism about football is fair. It's the exact same thing around here at the office. I want to have a good working relationship with everybody in this building. At the same time, if something happens that is a negative on the show, on the station, I'm going to go hey, man, look, it's nothing personal, but here's this thing that happened that I don't think is good, that I think we need to work on or be changed or whatever. And if you take it personally, so be it, but it's not. I didn't think I need to pile on, but then last night, I actually listened to the press conference, and I'm there's a lot that Dabo said that isn't getting played that I'm going to play tomorrow, despite the fact that it's going to eat up most of the show. But the one criticism I am going to have, and the one take I am going to have, I know it's going to be, I know there's going to be blowback. I'm going to be on some message boards this weekend. And I'm good with that because I still think it needs to be said. And we're going to get to that coming up in, honestly, probably the back half of this hour. Now, real quick, before we get to your water cooler cheat sheet, I said on the way out that I was surprised. I think surprised is the right word. Surprised that after the L to Vanderbilt, it's been remarkably quiet out of South Carolina, out of Columbia. Not really hearing a lot. Haven't really heard much from Shane other than the generic updates and stuff. Haven't really heard much from the players. Haven't really heard about disappointment or hurt. Haven't really heard about we're going to get out there and bring the energy and bounce back and be better and all that. Just even if it's just the cliches and the platitudes, which I speak out about all the time, at least it's something. We haven't really heard anything. Our buddy Jacob is watching on the show. And yes, Jacob, I will be talking about the Spartan Burgers coming up here a little bit later on in the show. Jacob jumped on the live stream, which you can too, facebook.com/thefanupstate, the Fan Upstate on YouTube, the Fan Upstate on Twitter. We stream the show live to all three of those locations. We also stream the show live to the Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch if you are using the more modern platform. Jacob jumps in the chat and he says, quote, why is going press dark bad? I've always been taught to shut up, work quietly, and then let my performance speak for itself. Talk is cheap, and Dabo is full of it. Okay, nice little shout there at the end. From Jacob. But I will address the first part of that quote, which is, why is going media dark bad? When most of us, I think, are taught, go to work, be quiet, let your work speak for itself, which, by the way, in some capacities works. But there are absolutely times that you need to be loud. There are times. It's the squeaky wheel gets the grease philosophy. There are times you need to be loud. If you are at work, I make this point. I made this point in the last hour. I make it all the time. If you are at work, you would absolutely better speak up about the things you have accomplished. Don't just assume it's going to get noticed, especially by people in authority that are above you in your hierarchy at work, because they got a lot of stuff going on in their life too. Don't just assume that the things that you do and accomplish are noticed, because sometimes they're not. And sometimes they become expected of you when they're not expected of you. But it's different for a Shane Beamer. It's different for a South Carolina Jacob. And the reason it is different, and I said this going out, but I'll try to be a little bit more clear about it here. The reason is this. South Carolina, between last year and this year, I think has a goal. And it's never going to be expressed, because by expressing it, you're openly saying we're not a top tier program. And no program is going to say we're not a top tier program, even not top tier programs. Like, I had a ton of respect for Grambling's coach when they're like, yo, you're going up to Columbus, Ohio. And he's like, yeah, we all know what's going to happen, right? Like, we know we're going to win the halftime show. We're going to go set up a situation where our band can put their band to shame. And they did. But the point here, because yes, I watched the halftime show. Shut up. It was awesome. It was awesome.
They combined, and it wasn't really a competition. It was togetherness.
Every game Grambling plays is a band competition. I've been to multiple Grambling games. Their band's electric. That's like losing to Mike Tyson in his prime. Yeah, there's no shame in that. Blah, 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 blah. Point is, South Carolina is not a top-tier program. And that's okay. There's not but a handful of them. But you're not a top-tier program. And I've said for really 2, maybe 3, but 2 years now, that if you're going to get there, you need to do a couple of things. One of them is you need to be exceptional with your brand awareness. You need to be exceptional with your brand awareness. It is like me. It would be great if I could just come in here, do a great show, and because I do a great show, I work hard, I'm quiet, I do a great show, and the results of that start to show up. But the reality is, I've got to be loud. Not loud like volume loud, but loud, I mean, I am that, but loud in terms of putting content out there, tweeting and TikToking and Instagramming and Facebooking and doing all these things. I don't even want to be on social media, you guys, but I have to. I'm obligated to, because I have to do the hard work to do a great show, but then I do have to go out and go, hey, everybody, this show's good, and you should listen to it. Because how else am I going to get people's attention from the infinite number of shows and podcasts that are available to people? That's how I feel about South Carolina. How, when you have got Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee and Texas and all these other schools that are your regular opponents, how are you going to get attention from them? The answer is you got to bring it on yourself. And then you got to perform up to that, which you didn't last weekend. Then you got to perform up to that. But to go radio dark instead of saying, hey, look, that's not what we expect. We're a top-tier program, even if we're not. We're a top-tier program, and we expect better than that. By not doing that, you're wasting time to do the thing that you ought to be doing. All right, let's do, because I want to get to the Dabo Swinney audio from his presser yesterday. Let's get to your water cooler cheat sheet. Top 3 sports stories you need to know before you go kill time talking sports at your office today. It is this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar? The almanac of the absurd in the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers say,
To win games, you have to win the game, not lose the game.
bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports. Let's dive right in very quickly with item number 1. 2 games last night in the WNBA playoffs. They are officially off and underway. The opening round, a best of 3 going down with a set of games yesterday. The first one, the Las Vegas Aces took their first loss in their last 18 contests. Their 17-game winning streak has been snapped, 1 game shy of the all-time WNBA winning streak, set at 18 games back in 2001 by the LA Sparks. The Vegas Aces will have to settle for a tie for second after an 86-83 loss last night to the Seattle Storm. The Storm led by Skylar Diggins, who had 26 points along with 7 assists and a couple of steals. 24 out of Anika Ogwumike. She had 24 points to go with 10 boards in a double-double effort last night for Seattle. Aaliyah Boston had herself, Aja Wilson had herself, we'll come to her in a minute too, had herself another game, 21 points, 13 rebounds in a double-double effort. Jackie Young led the Aces last night, 25 points on 8 of 17 shooting, but was 1 of 6 from behind the arc. The Aces went 7 of 19 behind the arc, shot 20 of 29 for 69 nice percent from the field as well. Not really one number that jumped off the board in this one. You got out-rebounded 32-29. They did shoot, the Seattle Storm, 83% from the stripe, just 50%, however, from the field last night. They did go 45.8% from the field, 50%, 10 of 20 from behind the arc, and that kind of was the difference. The Indiana Fever have stayed alive and forced both of these series going to game 3. The Fever lost game 1. They get game 2, 77-60 over Atlanta last night. 3 starters in double digits for the Fever. Kelsey Mitchell led with 19. Aaliyah Boston did have 15. However, not her traditional stat line, as those 15 points accompanied by just 5 rebounds and 3 assists last night. Overall, the Fever did out-rebound the Atlanta Dream 32-22, which was the difference in this game. The largest playoff victory margin so far in these WNBA playoffs. Let's get to item number 2. Glug, 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 glug. There we go. There we go. Let's go to baseball here for just a minute. A couple of games yesterday as the Braves played a rain makeup doubleheader. Game number 1, 6-3 goes the way of Atlanta. Jose Suarez would get the win in this one. 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, both earned. He struck out 9 on 99 pitches and an absolute gem. The offense carried over the momentum from game 1, 13 hits in this one, including big dongs from Jurickson Profar, his 14th of the year, and Matty Ice Baby Olson, his 27th. He had home runs in 5 consecutive. The Braves would turn around and win game 2 of the doubleheader as well. Now a 2-day win away from a 4-game sweep of the Nationals. 5-0. Chris Sale was lights out last night. 8 innings pitched, 106 pitches in those 8 innings, gave up just 3 hits, obviously no runs, 9 strikeouts. The part that blew me away, 8 innings, 3 hits, no runs allowed, 9 strikeouts, and he did not get credited with the win. Tyler Kinley did. Tyler came in 2 innings, 2 hits, no runs, K just won. Sometimes baseball scoring doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This is one of those times. The Braves win 2. They have won the first 3 of the 4-game set. They go for the sweep at 4:05 this afternoon. And the big dumper back in the news. Cal Raleigh went yard twice last night. In the second inning, he hit number 55. That sent him past Mickey Mantle's mark for single-season home runs by a switch hitter. That record had stood since 1961. Now, in fairness, that record's going to stand for a very long time because you just don't get a lot of switch hitters that are also dudes that can go 55 times yard in a year. In the very next inning, in the third, Cal Raleigh hit home run number 56. Cal Raleigh now tied with the Seattle Mariners single-season home run record that was established by, pop quiz, anybody? That is right, the greatest Mariner of all time. Ken Griffey Jr., he did it back in 1997, matched that record in 98. It has stood since then. Cal Raleigh has now tied that record. He needs just one more big dong to set the all-time single season record for the Mariners. And very rapidly, item number 3. 2 different news stories came out yesterday of the front office sports executives meeting / seminar / whatever the hell they called it last night. Commissioners Adam Silver and Rob Manfred were both there. Both of them shared big time stories for fans of their respective leagues. Adam Silver said that the NBA's European League, which is going to be run in tandem with FIBA, is expected to start play either in 2027 or 2028. Silver said he would love for it to start in 27. He said that's ambitious. There has to be some infrastructure that is set up. They've got to get the stadiums right. They've already got buy-in from a number of large European clubs. A lot of these clubs like Barcelona, they're called Barcelona Club because, yes, their soccer team is obviously the crown jewel, but they do have all these other sports that play under the same name with the same logos and the same jerseys and all that. A lot of these teams have already bought in to the NBA FIBA European League, and they, however, do have to build the facilities. He said there are a number of gyms that are ready, but some of the 16 teams expected to start this league will still need to improve the infrastructure. He wants it up by 2027. He said the reality, however, is 2028, but they will not go past 2028 because they want to ride the basketball high, the international basketball high that will obviously be set by the 2028 Olympics that take place in Los Angeles that year. And Rob Manfred yesterday, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, spoke at the same event. He said that as of right now, there are 3 broadcasting rights contracts that are in the final stages for Major League Baseball. Remember, Manfred said a couple of months ago that his goal was to streamline Major League Baseball broadcasting, not be where you have to go to one of 77 different outlets to watch the baseball games you want to watch. Now, some clubs will still have local distribution deals, meaning if you're a Braves fan, you'll probably still have to have a local contract with a local provider. But he said right now there is the final steps going down on a contract with ESPN to carry regular season games, a contract going down with NBC Universal to carry some postseason games, and to bring back Sunday Night Baseball. Good. That's one of the best parts of the weekend. And there's a contract going down with Netflix right now that will provide Netflix the coverage of the Home Run Derby. Not All-Star Weekend, but the Derby itself. I think that's a toe in the water for a Netflix. I think it will probably serve as an experiment for Amazon Prime as well. The question is, how many exclusive streaming services will Rob Manfred allow to carry baseball events if he wants it to streamline? We'll circle back around to that and talk more about it later on in the show. But when we come back, I'm going to split the Dabo Swinney press conference into 2 parts. The first part, I'm going to defend him because he took a lot of flack, a lot of heat yesterday about this press conference. And I think there were parts of it that a lot of talking heads are ignoring that I think Dabo Swinney deserves to be defended. Then in the final segment, I'm going to go on the attack because I think Dabo went on the attack yesterday. And while he did it in the traditional Dabo, bless your heart kind of way, I do think it needs to be addressed. We will do that next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
3 friends.
All right, guys, one more live and we're back. Y'all stay right there for me, please, and thank you. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. I'm going to sprint into this segment because Dabo took a lot of heat yesterday, a lot of criticism yesterday, and I think it was fair. I think it was expected. I played you a little while ago the opening response or the opening statement, I should say, from Dabo Swinney about this presser, because I think of the 54 minutes, there was probably about 13 minutes that I was like, all right, like some of this is good. Some of this feels like it's a bit of a crash out. Some of it feels like it's he can say he's not taking it personally, but it sounds to some degree like it is. But I also think there was a lot of this press conference where Dabo Swinney just sounded like a guy who was talking football. I'll give you an example of it. After the crash out, if you will, he was asked about Adam Randall as a running back.
He's been one of the real bright spots for us. He's been one of the real bright spots for us, and he's given us a chance to win. He's got to keep getting. He just needs to play. He just needs to keep going, and he really did a great job in the Troy game. Got it going. I thought we got it going last week, and I just think we got to keep rolling there. He's on his way. I've been pleased with Adam. It's not all bad. There's been a lot of good things. He's actually been one of the bright spots for us.
Fine. Like that's a fine answer, right? I know there are a lot of people upset about I'm not even upset, to be honest with you. And I was texting with a buddy about this during the game this past Saturday. Because I got Adam Randall's not a real running back text from a friend of mine who was a Clemson fan. And I said, I'm going to keep it a buck with you. You know who I feel like he reminds me of right now? Ashton Janty with the Raiders. Because Ashton Janty's taken a lot of heat. Oh, we overdrafted, we wasted a pick, whatever. And I've said, look, when you run the guy 11 times, like, I know we say this about the pass game, and it's probably more true about the pass game, but a run game takes some time to establish. And I'm not just talking about over the course of the season. I'm talking game by game. Very rare are the guys that are going to come out, and I'm not saying it never happens, but rarely is a guy going to come out and pop one early in a game. And when they do, those are usually the guys we consider to be very special running backs. I think the problem has been the lack of work to establish a run game in these games by Clemson. And a part of that, I think, is a reliance on Cade Klubnik, a belief that at some point, Cade Klubnik is going to turn into that Heisman Trophy threat that I'll say all of us, but like a lot of us thought he was going to be before the season started. And I think that the belief here is at some point it's going to click for Cade Klubnik, and then we're just going to be explosive. But until that happens, I need you to run the ball more. And in order to get to a point, and it's not just about Adam Randall, but it's about your offensive line. Because when you're throwing the ball 40 times a game, the difference between run blocking and pass blocking, and I know I'm kind of doing football 101 here, but sometimes you got to do football 101. The difference in philosophy and mentality in run blocking and pass blocking is something that you have to switch between, right? Coming off the ball in a run block, whether you're pulling guard or tackle, or you're the guy whose assignment is to get to the second level and remove the linebacker from the play, that's got to be a mentality of bloodlust, right? I'm going to go pancake that guy. I'm going to put something on film that he's going to be embarrassed for his mama to see. Versus a pass pro where you will still have some assignment, but ordinarily your assignment is more going to be along the lines of, okay, I'm the left guard. My job is to get a hand on the nose tackle to help the center establish the block, but then turn to the C gap and pick up anybody coming. It's kick back and cover. Rush blocking, you're attacking. Pass blocking, you're traditionally kicking back and waiting for the attack to come to you. And so to establish a run block scheme, you've got to run the ball and establish the ball. This is why one of the war cries of the Rob Brown Show is run the damn ball. Because if you don't run the ball, you can't run the ball. So I like the answer of defending Adam Randall there and going, he's given us a chance to win. He's been a bright spot. In fact, there was a big run was it the late third or early fourth quarter that Randall had, like 30-yard run, that I was like, okay, Clemson's not dead because of that run. And then they turned around and went right back to the same predictable screen dink and dunk offense that they had been running. And it's like, why after he reeled that one off? And when you've got the Tech defense on their heels a little bit, and now their eyes are turned a little bit, why would you immediately go back to the thing that's not working and away from the thing that literally just did? But at the same time, the point here isn't to break down the run game. The point here is to point out that for all of the heat, criticism, flack Dabo took about the press conference yesterday, of that 54 minutes he spoke, I'd say probably 41, 42 of it was that. It was talking football. It was answering questions, but not all of it. And when we come back, I got about 3 clips for you that I want to play and respond to from Dabo that I think it is fair to say that's a crash out. I think it is fair to say maybe don't attack the fans. They're not the ones that are making the game day decisions, right? Maybe don't attack the media for asking valid questions about defensive rotations and whatnot. And we'll do that when we come back. Rob Alonzo and you, the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stay right there for me. I'll be right back. Got to do one more thing. one last night, and I will be stunned today if I'm not stunned today. So I played you so far in the show a couple of the clips that I do think the folks that have been getting after Dabo Swinney to some degree ignored from this. And I get it. They're not sexy, right? For Dabo to be asked about Adam Randall and give the answer he gave, that's not really a sound clippable answer. And I'll give you one more reality about this industry that I have called a career for 17 years. Some people have this innate ability. I unfortunately don't. I wish that I did. Some people have this innate ability to understand how to speak in sound bites. Because sound bites are just where we are. Everybody wants a bite, right? I told you earlier, I've got some clips of Dabo that are like a minute and a half, 2 minutes long. I'm not supposed to play those.
If you could just make your sentences a little bit shorter, Rob Brown.
For sure. In fact, I had a conversation not terribly long.
It's very difficult to make promos.
100. I am well aware. I used to have to make my own promos. I am very well aware of that. And somebody who has to make social media videos, and they're supposed to be 60 seconds long, but I'm supposed to cut them from the show. I'm like, dude, you understand how much it takes for me to cut 1 point down to 60 seconds? Like, I'm admitting that I'm bad at this one element that I'm supposed to be very good at. Because to me, like, the details and the left-hand turns, that's what gives the show personality, flavor, character, whatever. Dabo is like me. He does not speak in sound bites. Like, he'll give you a 7-minute answer, and it's a great answer, but if you're a guy trying to put together a social media clip, it can be tough to do. So let me play you the first spot that I got a feeling that the tone of the conversation was shifting. I think this was the third question that Dabo got asked about Tom Allen. I want you to listen to the response about halfway through.
First two games, good enough to win. I mean, you hold 17 points to LSU and got one big play that we gave up there. I mean, you're good enough, good enough to win. So I'd say you passed those two tests, but we stunk in Atlanta. But how about let's give Haynes King some credit? How about we give Georgia Tech some credit? I mean, that quarterback was special. And, I knew going in, he's a special player, and he was special in the game. When they needed it most, he was the difference in the game. And so that game, we didn't get it done defensively to what we need to be what we want to be. So, but, we hadn't had Khalil Barnes. He's one of our best players. That's been a little bit of a factor as well, but no excuse. We got plenty. I mean, I just think, but again, same thing. It's complimentary football. Like, 21 points. The 3 points came off the offense. So 21 points. I mean, we got to score points. So it's, there's, I say it's down to one play. There's one play I could change on defense that we win the game. But there's about 8 of those, one play. I mean, if I change one of those 8, and it had nothing, don't even take anything away from them, like stuff that we control, you win the game. But we got to get the offense rolling. Defensively, I think we're going to be fine. I think Tom's done a great job, but there's certainly newness. There's some things that they got to work through. Got to drive the car a little while, but it wasn't good enough in Atlanta. It wasn't good enough. It was good enough to win the first game, and certainly good enough to win the second game. They gave up 7 points.
All right, so that's fine answer. Here's the second half, because in the second half, a reporter, I don't know who it was, I wish I did, said, well, Dabo, one of the things about this team coming in was you were supposed to have a dominant defensive line, dominant front seven, and we haven't really seen that dominance yet.
That dominance hasn't happened. So I'm just wondering if there's a chance.
How many points did we give up to LSU?
7.
Okay. Is that good enough to win defensively? Should be. They gave up 7 against Troy, and they gave up 21 against Georgia Tech. So I'm not saying we're dominating people, but we're trying. It's a long season, and you got to, where we got to be better defensively is third down. That's where we got to be better, and we got to get off the field a little bit more. But who do you not want us to play?
That's not my preference.
Okay, well, we're going to play the guys that deserve to play. They can't play every snap. We got to have a rotation in the D-line.
So he goes on to say, hey, look, like you're not gonna see a championship team that doesn't have a rotation and all that. But that sounded like the That sounded like the coach version of don't complain if you don't have a solution. No, I don't. The metaphor I always go to is I don't need to be a Michelin star chef to know that you burnt my steak. I don't need to know how to cook a steak to know that this one's ruined. Like, I don't, why does that have to be controversial? The reality is you haven't seen the dominant front seven that we were sold was going to be the heart and soul of this team. So to ask why not and what's going wrong, I don't think you need to turn around and get snarky about it.
Are you concerned? Have you started to see the trend, the pattern here that coaches are starting to snap back at the media and ask them those questions? It's been happening a lot more.
Oh, Brian Kelly's under a ton of fire for it right now.
A lot more this season than it has in seasons past. And do you think it's going to continue? Is it going to get worse? Is it going to get to the point where if you were Rob Brown, the reporter, where you would have to figure out what's the best way to ask a question so you're not going to get that kind of slap back from the coach?
Not really, because I don't care if I get the slap back from the coach.
Okay, right? Well, not everyone's like you. There's some people just disagree. Like, oh no, if I made him mad, I'm not going to be allowed back in this room.
You know who's like that? Beat reporters are like that.
Yes.
Guys who are, I'm not a beat reporter. Guys who aren't beat reporters are not like that, because I'll tell you straight up, and I've done it before. If I get access cut off from me, that's my story, guys. I come in here the next day and I go, hey guys, I've enjoyed covering XYZ State University, but they told me yesterday I'm not allowed to cover anymore because they didn't like what I had to say. So I'm out. Like, that is my story now. Like, that makes them look bad, not me. So whether or not that continues, that's really up to the fans. If the fans start pushing back and going, hey, we don't want our coach, especially Clemson, right? Like, one of the whole things about Dabo is
fans are going to take the coach's side. I just believe they will.
I think most places you're right.
So I think this is going to get worse. I don't know how you fix it, but
well, the answer is at some point you end up just with a room full of people who go, "Oh, Dabo, you're amazing," and then your fans are going to go, "Wait, where's our coverage?"
Which is what he thinks he has.
I think so too. Yeah. I also think there is just
By the
some
way,
element.
It's not just him. All coaches want that to be that way.
Sure. Nobody doesn't want that. But at the same time, I think the ones that are the best at it are the ones who are, again, capable of answering those questions. Nick Saban was a butthole to the media all the time. We called him the Nicktator for a reason. All right, let me get a couple more clips in here. Immediately after that, the next reporter said, whoa. In fact, I actually clipped the question because I did not want to be accused of misrepresenting Dabo's answer based on the context of the question.
The way you just defended your entire career here, are you feeling the criticism? Is it getting personal to you?
No, it doesn't. I really don't feel it. First of all, I don't let any of that in. I think that's a gift that I have. All right, because I don't let it in. I know it's bad because I get in all the text messages. I'm praying for you. Everybody's sending me devotions, and you're going to get through this. And that's when I know it's bad. That's how I feel it because I don't read it. I don't. I know people say that. I promise you, I don't.
So he goes on to tell a story about how back in the day, he had coaches coming to him saying, hey, when it's bad, don't read stuff and whatever. And that's all well and good. Now, the clip I didn't play because we are going to probably circle back around to this later. The long clip. There's about a 7-minute response from Dabo where he basically walks through the history of him at Clemson. He's like, oh, we did this in 2002 and we did this in 2000 and what, not 2002, but you get it. He goes, basically, we did this that year and we did this that year. We did this that year. Why is nobody talking about this, that, and the other? And it was like this long thing of, we've won a whole lot. Why are you on my butt now? And it very much was a defense of his career. And so the guy said, and he goes, yeah, I try not to read all that. But then a minute later, he gets asked another question, and I thought the answer started great. And here's where I think Dabo Swinney lost me.
We've had a lot of success here, and it hasn't been perfect. So I don't. I thrive in the battle. Honestly, I have my whole life. I mean, I watched my sister-in-law die at 49 years of age in the hospital, breast cancer. I mean, listen, perspective is important. So if they want me gone, if they tired of winning, they can send me on their way because that's all we've done is win. So if they tired of winning, we've won this league 8 out of the last 10 years. Is that not good? I'm just asking. Is that good? I don't know if that's good or not. to win your league 8 out of 10 years, to go to the playoffs 7 out of 10 years, be in 4 national championships, win it twice. Yeah, we a little down right now. Take your shots, but I got a long memory, in case y'all don't know. We'll be all right. We'll bounce back. This is a program built to last. Always has been. Always will be. And I would just say, if you give up on us if you don't believe in us because we've lost 2 games down to the last straight and you didn't believe in us anyway, so it don't matter. You wasn't all in anyway. If you're all in, you burn the ships, man. There ain't no exit strategy. Like, you're freaking all in. And hey, listen, I mean, if Clemson's tired of winning, they can send me on my way, but I'm gonna go somewhere else and coach.
So here's the thing I take away from that.
By the way, I enjoyed that. I loved that.
Sure.
I mean, I thought that was great.
Except for, here's the thing. Literally, no one is calling for Dabo Swinney to be fired. Scratch that. There may be like a very tiny, small little bit, like the extreme, right? Like the smallest. But
those voices are pretty loud, though, Rob. They always are.
Hey, give me one.
You just said
one fan on Twitter. Just a fan.
All right.
I've heard nobody.
You're doing that thing again.
No, I know.
And I am saying that normally that little minority are the loudest voices. I'm not giving you an exact example in this case. I'm talking about overall in these situations, the minority is the loudest voice. They're not necessarily the representative of the fan base as a whole.
But what you said is they're loud right now. Are they loud right now? I'm asking you. That's not like an attack. I'm asking
you cut me off before I could finish saying it was generally.
Okay, I apologize.
Overall,
are they loud right now?
Probably, but
okay.
I don't like Clemson, and I'm not listening to Clemson, and I'm not like you. I'm not on the Clemson message boards. I can be if you would like me to be, and I'll just laugh the whole time. But it's not necessary because I know overall, generally, the diehards are probably calling for his job, and the same thing is happening in other counties and other states where their teams are struggling.
So, Lonzo was correct about one thing. I absolutely thrive in the shadows of the message boards because that's where the conversation takes place that you guys want to have. And I will acknowledge that there are a few, and I'll call one out by name specifically. Shout out TigerNet, where the most extreme Clemson fans reside. You will come across the post every now and then that says, oh, it's time to move on. He's cooked. He's done. Whatever. Now, I'll say this. I don't think he's cooked and is done unless he's unwilling to change. I think at this point we can all say, or at least I can say.
If you're calling for the end of Dabo Swinney right now, you're just not very smart. I mean, he has took you places you've never been before, and I agree with him. He'll probably go somewhere else and win. Whether you think, well, the reason why he's losing is because of transfer portal and all this stuff, whatever.
He will go somewhere else and win. That's not Division I, Power 4, Power 5, top level.
I don't
football.
know that that's the truth.
I do, and here's why. Because the referendum.
If Alabama continues to struggle, suddenly that looks a little more appetizing.
Because here's the problem. The problem is not. I mean, I do think there's X's and O's with the play calling and all that. But the problem is, as we have mentioned a number of times, it's Dabo's unwillingness to utilize the portal to the full extent, A, and B, Dabo's unwillingness to, while there is obviously an NIL program at Clemson, not to embrace it, buy in, whatever. That prevents a Power 4 football team from winning.
And despite all that, a bunch of people had them competing for a national championship this year.
Yeah, but they're 1-2, and nobody thinks that now.
I'm just saying.
This is why coming into the year, the take was, do I think they can be a championship team? They've got the talent to do it. But the question is, will this year be the referendum? Scratch that. This year will be the referendum on if Dabo's philosophy of doing the old school way works or not. And the answer through 3 games. And he's right. He said at one point, maybe we suck, we lay an egg, we go 6-6, but maybe we don't. Maybe we go 10-2, win the conference, go to the playoff, make some noise. Maybe they do. And if that case, we'll come back to this day and we'll go, eat your crow, Rob Brown, you big fat dummy. Maybe that's the case. But through 3 games, I got no reason to believe that's the case. What's changed? Nothing. What's gotten better? Nothing. What's different? Nothing. It's the same thing it was in week 1, week 2, and week 3. We'll see if it changes in week 4 against Syracuse. That being said, if it is a referendum on whether philosophy works for Dabo, right now the answer is no. And so that's not going to win at Alabama. It's just not. It's not going to win at Florida State. It's not going to win at Florida. It's not going to win anywhere else. So I'm not worried about that. The thing is, there is only a very small minority of extreme, but what he does here to me is he knocks everybody that says, my expectations were higher than this. And my disappointment level is higher than I thought it was going to be. We are not meeting expectations, and I am disappointed with where we are. And it makes it sound like Dabo's like, hey, if you're disappointed, you're a bad fan. If you're disappointed, you're not all in. You're not a true fan. You're not this, you're not that. And that kind of ticks me off a little bit because I know a lot of IPTAY members who are also really upset about the state of the program right now. Are you telling me guys that are throwing $10K a year at your program aren't all in, aren't balled all in? That's a bad take. And that, to me, is where the wheels came off the wagon of this press conference yesterday. We got to get a sports flash. When we come back, we'll do some audio blitz. I got one more long clip from that we'll get to that I really think was the meat and potatoes. All that coming up in the next hour of the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
And now, sports flash.
I said that. We got to do a sports flash.
I expect a better intro from you.
That's fair.
It hurt. The Braves, speaking of not hurting, played a doubleheader against the Nationals yesterday, making up a rain game from back in May in Game 1. Jose Suarez went 7 innings with 5 hits and 2 runs allowed while striking out 9 for a 6-3 win. In Game 2, Atlanta shut out Washington for a 5-0 extra inning win. Chris Sale threw 8 with 3 hits, striking out 9. Seattle Mariners won their 10th straight, and catcher Kyle Raleigh set more records in a 12-5 win over Kansas City. Raleigh hit his 55th homer of the season in the second inning, passing Mickey Mantle's single-season homer record for switch hitters. The Las Vegas Aces 17-game win streak ended one shy of the all-time mark set by 2001 LA Sparks with an 86-83 loss in Game 2 of their series against the Seattle Storm.
Presidential beer? Kind of. We'll discuss as we take a bite out of history with Ingles Markets. Jimmy Carter was the 39th president of the United States, serving from 1977 to 1981. President Carter had a brother named Billy who never pursued politics, but definitely enjoyed pursuing the spotlight. Known as
No, actually, Steven, that's on me because I'm sitting there thinking about how I'm defending Dabo Sweeney, not for the first time. I thought I recovered at the end, but can you do? All right. I am going to take us off for a minute while I answer the phone. khakis. I had nothing to
Khakis.
say.
I'm wearing khakis right now. They're amazing.
Okay. You're really offended about the khakis thing? I mean,
I think khakis get too bad of a rap, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think they're a very utilitarian.
You're very
pant.
Jim Harbaugh-esque today. Good for you.
I just got described as, quote, Jim Harbaugh-esque.
You don't leave your mouth open as much as him, but
America.
Exactly.
The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. Phone line open 844-326-3663. I genuinely would like a well, I've gotten some reaction. I'm going to get to those here in a minute. But reaction from you Clemson fans about the take on Dabo Swinney. Here's how I genuinely feel curtain pulled back about this situation. For those of you that are married or you've been in a relationship, you may know that one of the hardest things to do is be disappointed in, upset by your partner, and to have a hard conversation. Now, if you love somebody, you can do that. You can say, look, we got to have a hard conversation. I'm disappointed by, I'm hurt by, I'm upset by, whatever the case. And if they love you, they should be willing to sit down. And even if they disagree with you, say, this is important to me as well. Let's have the talk. I agree. I disagree. I'll change. I won't change, whatever. We'll evaluate. And that's kind of where I am with this, because I do not have a cell in my body of ill will towards Dabo Swinney. I've spoken to him 5, maybe 6 times since I've been here. A couple of, probably 4 times in interviews, probably twice in passing away from the radio. And I've never had an issue with him. I think he's a little bit short sometimes, but of course he is. He's the 3rd highest paid coach in America at a prestigious blue chip program.
I thought you were talking about figuratively. It was a little bit short.
No, he's not. If he's shorter than me, it ain't by enough to make jokes about.
All right.
So the only reason that I have said what I've said is because I do have a lot of admiration for him, the way that he runs the program, the way that he coaches. I am very sincere when I say this. I have never had a conversation with a former player that did not involve how much they love the guy, how they go to battle for the guy. There is a reason that while I think it is bad for Clemson that he has so many former players and buddies in there on the coaching staff, there's a reason that so many of them want to be there. And I don't think it's just because, and this part I will say is the negative, Dabo is willing to hand out jobs to guys that probably don't have the experience for that high pressure level of football, because I don't think that's a good thing. I think a lot of them just want to stay around the program because of how much they love the program. I do not have a single modicum of anything of ill will against Dabo. But that doesn't mean I can't say, hey, we got to have the tough conversation. This ain't the look, man. Like, this ain't the takeaway. We got a couple of texts. We got a couple of folks in the chat, but we do have a phone call, Lonzo. I still haven't gotten Chris to fix my stuff, so I don't know who it is.
We have Tony.
Tony! Welcome back to the show, Tony. What's up, big dog?
Hey, guys. Listen, I think the Clemson fans just need to relax. I mean, Dabo's resume is impeccable. And they lost to a top 5 very good LSU team. Okay, Georgia Tech, the number 1 rushing team in the nation. And Clemson has always struggled against Georgia Tech. So they're 1-2. And here's what's just got to happen for them to end up in the playoffs. They got to beat Florida State, which is very possible. And there were 3 loss teams in the playoffs last year. And you beat Florida State and can even lose to South Carolina at the end and maybe win against South Carolina. I do not, by any reason, I'm not even a Clemson fan. I'm just a college football fan that's looking at it. I do think Dabo needs to buy more into the portal. He's inching that way more and more every year, but he still made the playoffs last year. And I don't think these little, or not little, but these disrespectful people that are just blasting Dabo, that's not necessary, because what he's done, there are many and many and many of coaches across the country that would love to mirror his resume, and they don't. So I think, and I know it's radio, and I know we got to keep things hyped up and stirred up, and we got to hit every angle. But I think Clemson fans just need to relax, let things play out at a difficult beginning of the year schedule. And they're very close games. Play LSU very good. Play Georgia Tech very good. It just didn't end up their way. I think they still win the ACC if they beat Florida State. And I think they still make the playoffs if they can just keep 3 losses on the board. And that's my take.
Tony, appreciate the phone call, buddy. Good to have you back on the show. You're welcome anytime. 844-326-3663 is the number to be a part of it. Nettie Mike says, Tony needs to put down the pipe. Oh, we're just after each other today. I like it. Look, the reality is I very much understand the Clemson fans that say Dabo Swinney, as far as they are concerned, is a lifer, because you are correct, Tony. The resume is impeccable, and it is impeccable at a school. Correct me if I am wrong, though I don't think that I am. At a school that when Dabo Swinney took over, not only didn't want him by and large to get the job in the first place, but was a school that I think, much like South Carolina is right now, was a school that was considered nationally to be mid. And had you told somebody in, say, 2013-14 that by 2018-20, you would be an annual national championship threat, would play for 4, would win a pair, and would be a threat for a number of consecutive dynastic years, I think even a lot of Clemson fans, if we could travel 88 in the DeLorean back in time to that point in time, would be like, no, dog. Nah, that ain't it.
I was doing a sports show with the guy who I brought in who was a Clemson fan, because I wanted both perspectives. I was coming from a Gamecock standpoint. He was coming from the Clemson standpoint. He was very unhappy with the hiring of Dabo.
Yeah, a lot of people were.
And then somewhere in the next year, or maybe a couple years later, it just flipped, and boom, that's our guy. He's always been our guy. I never had a problem with him being there. And that's a lot of that happens. That's what winning does. And last I checked, when's the last time Clemson had a losing season?
Been a long time. Been a long time since they've had less than a 9-win season. Been a long time since they started 1-2. It's 2014, but I think this is kind of the biggest point for me. And then I'm going to come to you on the text line at 844-326-3663 and in the chat. So leave your thoughts there now, and I will come to and read and react to your comments here in just a moment. This is what I think were the 2 biggest reactions I had to this press conference that blew up yesterday. The first one that I had was the one that I expressed in the last sentence, or the last segment, pardon me. And again, there was more of it in a much longer clip that we're going to play hold up on here in just a little while, because it is a long clip. So I want to be able to play it in a way that we can stop, start, and react in real time. It felt to me, and I know that this is not a invalid comment, because I got a message yesterday from a Clemson fan, a very big Clemson fan, a booster, a donor in the area who I have a relationship with, who said, quote, not gonna, in fact, I'll quote him accurately, not gonna lie, I'm pretty sick of being told I'm a bad fan for criticizing a dude who gets paid $11 million a year to win football games for not winning football games. Nobody listens to everything people say about them like someone who says, I never listen to what people say about me. The problem with Dabo is there's a huge segment of the fan base that will never criticize him, and he knows that, and he uses that and uses them to shut down what is very valid criticism. So I know I'm not alone in the thought. I do not think that it is the proper way to handle it, though again, Dabo can handle it however the hell Dabo wants to handle it.
How dare he bring up scoreboard? How dare he do that? How dare he point out how good you guys have had it? Wow.
If I came in here tomorrow and I and ummed and drooled into the mic for 4 hours, and then at the end of the show you went, Rob, that was not great, Bob. And I went, So we've won 3 trophies. Like, deal with it. We've had a lot of success here.
You act like you've never awed, or drooled into the microphone.
Okay. It's not often that I drool into the microphone. And it's ordinarily when like somebody sends donuts or something. That's not my fault. All right. It's not my fault. I do not think it is unfair of fans to have criticism. Let me read you a text that I got just a few moments ago from Spartanburg J. Sorry, a tweet I got from Spartanburg J at the Rob Brown Show on all social media if you are there. Spartanburg J said, Rob, tell Dabo we aren't tired of winning, just tired of losing games we should have won. Tired of seeing an uninspired Clemson football team. Tired of watching mediocre play calling. Tired of being 4 to 5 plays away. Tired of losing. End quote.
It looked like they were trying hard to me. Here's the thing, and I said this at the beginning of the season. It's all on Cade Klubnik. You don't want to put it all on him. If he has a good game, they're going to win. If he makes some mistakes, they're going to lose. That's how close it's going to be with some of these games, and that's what's happened. It's been on Cade, and that's where it needs the fingers need to be pointed.
I don't disagree, but I also think that there's a whole gradient to that, because then we can have a conversation that we had last week on the show and earlier this week in the show. Do we feel like Cade Klubnik is where we expect him to be? I think the answer is no. And so the question is multifold. Is Cade Klubnik at his roof? Is this is the best he is? This is the best he's capable of? Because if the answer to that is yes, then it becomes, then Dabo is missed on back-to-back quarterbacks, because he missed on DJ Uiagalelei. I think we all agree with that. And not that Cade's a bad quarterback.
Who Cade was better than.
Correct. Don't disagree. But is that good enough? Is that good enough for Clemson? Is that good enough? Is what he's doing right now good enough to have you as a 9-win football team? Because let's keep it a buck. Dabo also pointed out we might win 6 games this year. And he said we might suck. We might lay an egg and win 6 games this year. But let's say theoretically, if this team gets to 9 wins, let's say they are a 9-win team, the 9-win streak stays alive. Is that good enough? I would say the answer is no. Now, if you go 9-3 in the Southeastern Conference, probably a different vibe, right? If you go 9-3 in the Big Ten, that's probably a different vibe. Not as big of a different vibe as it is in the SEC, but a different vibe nonetheless. And even though I was, so far I will be, let me hold myself accountable here. So far, I've been right that the ACC is not the powder puff that a lot of y'all thought it was going to be. It's not a bad, Miami's very good. Florida State, again, they've only played 2 games, but they beat a very good ranked team in week 1, and they hung 77 on the board in week 2. Looks like Florida State maybe found a little something there. But even if I am right about the ACC being a better conference than anybody wanted to give it credit for when the year started, I would also point out to you that 9 wins in this conference is not like nationally impressive. Like, it would still be fine and certainly something to be happy with, but 9 wins in the ACC isn't something you raise a banner for, especially not if you're Clemson, where, Dabo's words, not mine, best is the standard. If you claim best is the standard and then you're not the best, you're not living up to your standard. And Dabo literally in the long answer we're going to play later in the show at one point said, why are we held to a different standard than anybody else? You have a 40-foot long banner that says best is the standard. You put that banner up, not us, not me, not some jackass with a microphone, not the fans, not the media, nobody. You hung a banner that says best is the standard. So you're held to a different standard, Dabo, because you demand it. You said it. That has been your MO the whole time. So to turn around and kind of jump on the fans for saying we're not best and therefore I'm going to criticize, to say they shouldn't criticize because you're not best, they're just asking you to hold yourself to your standard. I know that that's frustrating sometimes, but it is what it is, right? All right, I got a lot more text, a lot more messages. We're going to get to that, but phone calls always come first at 844-326-3663.
I'm going to go with Bryant. It's really hard to hear in this room. I don't know what, it might be my headphones or something.
We'll find out. Brian, Bryant, Jimmy, whoever you are, welcome to the show. Who are we talking to?
Really hard to hear. Hey, how's it going, man? I just wanted to say that Clemson, like you said, he's missing on the last couple of quarterbacks, and he missed on the third. He had a hometown kid, Cutter Woods at Westside, which they probably would be able to use him right now, but he will come to regret that they didn't get Cutter Woods, because I know for a fact that family wanted to go to Clemson, but they didn't look at it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think regardless if we go with Cutter Woods, who did end up being a South Carolina Gamecock. In fact, a lot of Gamecock fans looking to see if maybe he can get some PT this weekend if Lenora Sellers isn't available. We can go with that. We can just go with the guys in the franchise. That's all of it. All of it is fair. I think the point here, though, would be for a dude that's strung together a pretty damn impressive list of top-tier quarterbacks that helped this 9-win streak that Dabo has been hammering on for the last couple of press conferences, to miss on DJU, to miss on Cade Klubnik, which, again, maybe Cade turns it around. I don't know. We'll see. But we talked yesterday, the record against Power 5 teams.
By the way, he has missed on other guys back in the day and left them in there too long before benching them.
Sure.
For better quarterbacks.
Sometimes loyalty comes at a fault, right? Like sometimes you just got to go, I like you. I love you. I'm glad you're here. But you're not the guy right now. Like bench you, let you get develop, whatever. We'll work with you one-on-one. But this is kind of I mentioned the 3 questions about Cade Klubnik. Number 1, is he just at his roof and it's a miss? Who's that on? Dabo Swinney. Number 2.
But how's it a miss? I mean, he's won a ton of games. A miss is not being able to get above 500.
I gave you
so he's not elite, but that doesn't mean he's a miss.
I gave you the numbers yesterday why it's a miss. The numbers are barely above 500 against Power 5 teams.
So they won despite him, and he never had anything to do with the victories.
Are you winning the way you expect to win right now? The answer is no. The answer is no. Nobody expected 1 and 2. Haters didn't expect 1 and 2. The answer is no. But for a dude who against ranked teams has a touchdown to pick ratio that hovers around 1-to-1, no, that's not good enough for this program. So either A, he's at his roof, in which case it's a miss, or B, he's not at his roof, in which case he has not, over years of being on campus, has not been developed to his roof, which is also on Dabo. You see, that's the point. It feels to me like there's a lot of, hey guys, I did a lot of good in the past, so don't hold me accountable now. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, keep leaving your thoughts in the chat. I'm going to come to the chat room in the next segment. Y'all stay right there. Going to hit the head. We'll do our chat when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
Not.
Continuing to take your reactions to the Dabo Swinney press conference from yesterday. This thing took off yesterday. I wasn't able to watch it live, but last night when I was finally able to kind of settle down and check in to what was going on in the world of sports, everybody in America with a microphone and even a small affection for college football was talking about this. And again, I think it's fair. I think 45 of a 54-minute press conference, 45 of those minutes were a coach giving a press conference. And I think there was a lot of platitudes, and I think there was a lot of, hey, we're going to be fines. And I think there was a lot of, we weren't good enough here. We need to pick up this guy. This guy needs to do better. All stuff that's pretty standard and routine from just about any football coach. But man, those 7 or 8, 9 minutes that Dabo went off were not it for me. This is not it. I think the criticism was in the wrong place. It felt to me like there was a spot where Dabo started, and again, I've got a long clip that we'll get to a little later in the show. I do want to take a break from this, but as long as you guys are burning up the text line, the chat line, and the phones, we'll stick with you. 844-326-3663 is the number to call and get on the air with your reaction. You can text that reaction to the Hub City Spartanburger text line at 844-326-3663, or you can tweet me, Instagram me, whatever, at The Rob Brown Show, or join us on our live stream. The live stream is facebook.com/TheFanUpstate, The Fan Upstate on YouTube, The Fan Upstate on Twitter, or The Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Twitch. So let's get to a couple of the reactions so far. Texas said, didn't DJU have a better winning record than Cade? Against Power 5 opponents. The answer to that is yes. Against Power 5 opponents. And again, I think this is something that has to be talked about, because we talked a lot about Cade just a few minutes ago. I am starting to shift over to the philosophy, what's on tape, and on tape, a lot of the numbers that convince me that Cade Klubnik was going to be a Heisman finalist this year, a lot of those numbers do seem to have been stacked up against lower tier teams. Against Power 5 opposition, Trevor Lawrence, 31-2. Deshaun Watson, 28-3. Kelly Bryant, 12-2. All those guys were 85% winning percentage or better. Taj Boyd, 26-7, 78%. DJ Uiagalelei, 18-6, a 75% winning percentage against Power 5 opponents. Cade Klubnik, 15-11, a 577, a 57.7% winning percentage. So I think that's kind of where people are hinging this whole thing. Texture said, Rob, as much as I love Dabo, you are correct. If he leaves Clemson now, he never wins at the level he has at Clemson, unless it's a Western Kentucky or somewhere on that level. His answer lacks forward thinking, end quote. I think that's a little bit of it, right? Like, I heard that. And by the way, I think Dabo Swinney was being very genuine. He went on to say in one of his answers, y'all, I'm 55 years old. Like, I'm just getting started. I'm just figuring this thing out. I'm good to go. He's like, Nick Saban was really starting to win at the age that I'm at now, and I've already got 2 rings in the back pocket. That's all well, good, and fair. But the philosophy matters. Nick Saban's philosophy mattered, and it worked at that period of college football. I don't think Nick Saban got out because Nick Saban was done winning. I think Nick Saban got out because Nick Saban did not want to have to coach and work the way that successful coaches are going to have to coach and work in the new era of college football. I don't want to deal with NIL. I don't want to deal with the transfer portal. I don't want to deal with all this stuff. So I'm out. I firmly believe that's why Nick Saban got out. I don't think he was done with it. Sure, I think he and Miss Terry, I think they wanted to spend some time together, but like, they were constantly telling stories about going on safaris and whatnot. I think they were fine with what they had. I just don't think he wanted to do the new era of college football. And it's very obvious now at this point. I don't think it's like a tired narrative anymore that Dabo Swinney doesn't want to do it either. The difference is he's sticking around. So I think there's something there. Texter said, when Dabo asked if winning the ACC isn't enough, the loud answer is no. Why? Because the ACC is the weakest conference in college football's Power 5. I think that's the Big 12, personally. Like, I think Clemson goes in and wipes the floor with the Big 12. They have a couple of tough games with the top-tier contenders. I think the ACC is third, and I don't even think the ACC, specifically this year, I don't even think the ACC is as far behind the Big 10 as a lot of people have made it out to be. But at the same time, no. Again, best is the standard, and that starts with the conference. Now, this team can still win the conference. They will need some help now. They will have to beat a Florida State team that looks like it's kind of started to find its way. They may have to beat a Miami team that, granted, the Notre Dame win doesn't look as good as it did now that Notre Dame's 0-2. Doesn't look as good as it did, but you got it done, and he didn't, Mario Cristobal didn't punch himself in the junk. So, like, you have to beat that team. Yeah, SMU lost the close game to Baylor. It's not a bad Baylor football team. I said that going into the weekend. They're still out there looking for you, right? Pitt's kind of finding the offense a little bit. I pay attention to them. Point is, you said best is the standard. That starts in conference. Are you the best right now? The answer is no. You're not living up to the expectation you set for the program. And what I got yesterday was kind of like when I would come home from school with a C on the report card, and the dad would go, "Hey, kid, that's not good enough because I know you can do better." And instead of saying, "You're right, old man, that's on me, I can do better, I'll sharpen it up and I'll get it right in the next semester," I go, "But Dad, I got an A in PE. And? But that, yeah, okay. But that's not that. Dad, I got all A's last year. Okay, but that was last year. This is this year. I'm not worried about last year. I'm worried about this year, the year that we are in." And that's how it felt. Like it felt very much like we've won a bunch, so don't hold me accountable to my own standard right now. RJ said, how much of Dabo's rant yesterday do you think was him trying to take the heat off the players due to the 1-3 start? 1-2 start, but I get what you're saying, RJ. And the answer is probably not zero. I'm sure that might have been some of it. But at the same time, do you throw your fans under the bus to pull that off? Like, is that the way you handle that? Because that's what I felt he did to some degree. Thomas on the live stream says, the part of the Dabo press conference I listened to felt more like a history lesson. I love Dabo and have been a Clemson fan all my life, but something in the offense needs to change. I agree, Thomas. I think it's play calling primarily. I think you got to take the collar off of Garrett Riley and let him call the Garrett Riley offense. For no other reason, to shock and awe everybody because everybody else is used to seeing it. Steven said, I'm a big fan of Clemson, but I didn't need to hear Dabo's Al Bundy impression where he scored 4 touchdowns in one game in high school. I don't think that's unfair. Deontay says, Dabo slander is terrible. Just change the quarterback. Is Vizina the answer? Because, again, 2 missed quarterbacks back-to-back. Do I have any reason to believe that you're going to go to the next guy and he's going to be the answer all of the sudden? I got nothing. Nettie Max says, the sports world is, what have you done for me lately? And that's the answer. Yeah, again, like that's kind of it. When you ask to be held to a certain standard, that doesn't mean, well, I have met that standard, so now it's okay if I don't now. Clemson fans don't want to slip back to being an 8-4 every now and then we'll compete for the conference team. You want to stay on top, like Ohio State, like Georgia, like Bama. They had a bad year, but then they bounce right back. And you're not there right now. Deontay said ACC is tough this year. Well, gosh, if only somebody told you that coming into the year. Am I right, guys? Am I right?
We'll see you do the Champa thing.
Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Are you incapable? You can't do this?
I can, but it's going to make me make a funny face.
It's not a normal motion to do this. It's not. And I can't because the pythons are in the way. You know, when you start flexing and you can't help but flex and you just can't get back in there. Yeah.
All right, guys. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'll keep talking to you when we come back. All right. A few more reactions here, and then the last hour of the show, we are going to get away from this press conference. I do think it is important enough to eat up the time that it has eaten. I think it provides some level of insight to what is happening inside the locker room. And I think it was a fair point from RJ, or a fair question from RJ to say, how much of Dabo's rant yesterday do you think was him trying to take the heat off of his players due to the 1-3 start? I absolutely do think that Dabo Swinney is the type of coach that would pull a Christopher Nolan Batman and throw himself to the wolves to take the criticism away from his guys. I think that is absolutely a possibility. And maybe that is exactly what is happening. This was all planned. He knew he was going to get beat up, and he doesn't give a damn. And so he's good with it, because we're not talking about Cade Klubnik, or we're not talking about Adam Randall, or we're not talking about, whoever is going to be wearing a helmet and shoulder pads against Syracuse the next time this team goes out. That's a very fair point, and that may be what is happening. But I'll tell you why I'm not going down that path with you, RJ, even though I do think it is a possibility. Because I think, or even if he did go down that path, why I think he may have not done it the right way. Because like I said, in one of the clips, I feel like he kind of throws the fans under the bus for everything. The clip we played earlier where he said, if you're criticizing us right now, you were never all in. Meh. You were never. That's the old "you're not a real fan" argument. Where anytime that somebody says, well, I'm a little unhappy about the head coach, the run game, the whatever, like, and even if it's about the fans, like, I'm not one. So cool. That doesn't impact me from talking about what I'm seeing on the football field. But you're not a real fan. He said, if you're all in, you burn the ships, man. You don't have an exit strategy. You go in knowing like we're succeeding or we're failing. And that's just all there's going to be to it at this point. So if it was a desire to take the heat off of the team so that the players hear less and he'll just take the weight, fine. I still don't think you criticize the players. And I certainly don't think, and maybe this is just me, maybe this is a strategy. Maybe it's worked in years gone by. You don't sit there and do 5 minutes of a history lesson about how good you were in 2017, 18, 19, and 20 when you are trying to talk about the actions of 2025. In fact, let me play you one more clip. I'll get a couple more reactions, and we will get away from this in the next segment. Dabo was asked about his personal mentality, attitude, where he is while all of this is going on.
Ain't nothing gonna steal my joy. I ain't happy, but ain't nothing gonna. Happiness is based on results you get, right? But joy is something that's deeper within, and that's what I build my life on. So I'm way too blessed to let it steal my joy. It's frustrating, and I'm sure it's really nasty because again we have a society now that's normalized nastiness and hate and criticism, and we give platforms to people to just tear people down and make stuff up and lie, and nobody cares. That's just normal in society, and that's sad, but that's why I don't participate in that. I just don't. I think we all have a choice what you let in and what you don't, and but that's also the world. That's part of the problem too, because that's the world these guys live in, and you lose a game at a place like Clemson and people can lose their mind. And you gotta learn how to manage that. You gotta learn how to live your life with that. That's why you gotta build your life on a foundation of faith.
So let me once again say, not a cell in my body has an issue with Dabo Swinney. In fact, quite the opposite. I would say that if I had to call somebody from the sports world because things weren't going right for me and I needed the old rah rah shish boom ba, you're gonna be fine speech, Dabo would probably be the guy I call. Right? Like the first half of that answer was another fine one. I'm good with it. And I'm not even super far removed from the second half of that take of, we as a country, and I blame this on social media if you want the real answer here, but we as a country have developed a nasty habit of platforming and boosting people who tear people down more so than boost people up. If you came across, I won't say you because I don't want anyone to think I'm talking about them specifically. Clips where people have awful hot takes get a lot more attention than clips where somebody actually breaks down ball and does so and says, this guy's killing it out here and he's doing this. Look at this play call, whatever. Like, I actually agree with Dabo on all of that. But what I don't think is fair is to kind of use what I think there is a good take about where we are societally and transpose that onto criticism about a 1-2 football team that is now significantly behind the 8 ball of making it to the college football playoff, which, if I recall correctly, you said was the goal this year. Like, your goal was to get to the college football playoff. I don't think it's fair to say, oh, there's a lot going on out there with this country where we are giving people platforms who are just like their entire personality is negativity and being gross and vile and whatever. A take I do agree with. But to then say that, or at least even infer, which to me he did, maybe I'm being a bit of a sensitive Sally here. But it feels to me like he is some degree conflating, hey, 1-2 is not good enough. Like 1-2 is not good enough. This isn't what we expected. You have more talent than this. And as I've said, the biggest takeaway from me that I have asked Clemson fans for, I asked you on Monday, and I did not get a lot of answers, certainly nowhere near the amount of input you guys are giving on this press conference right now. If I asked you from week 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, what's changed? What got better? What improved? What can you put your finger on and say, well, we lost to LSU because X, but that certainly looked a lot better in week 2, even if we did struggle against Troy. Yes, we struggled against Troy in week 2, and that's because of Y, but Y looked a heck of a lot better against Georgia Tech. Because as somebody who loves the X's and O's of football, as somebody who loves I am the dude who sits at home and watches game film that I will never talk about on the radio show. Because I know most of you don't and don't care about why a dig route works against a high set safety. Most of you don't care about that. You just want to talk about the win and the loss and why it happened.
I'm not sure what a dig route is. Usually you say things and I know what they are. I'm not sure what a dig route is.
Insert your favorite route here. Usually that's going to be an in-cut route where you're going to, instead of running like a 5 and out, you'll do like a 2, and then you will try to plant the inside or plant the outside foot and dig yourself up underneath the guy that's covering you. Okay. Right? So it's more like it's not really a slant, because a slant is first step slanted in. A dig route's going to be like a step or two down the field and bang, you're going to cut to the inside. You're trying to get that DB backpedaling before you make your inside cut, which usually is going to work if you're playing a guy who's maybe playing off you. Like if he's playing man, but he's giving you a 5-yard cushion, you might want to run that dig so you can get that first step backwards, get him moving backwards. Now his momentum's carrying away when you cut to the inside. Works against certain patterns, does it, or coverages, doesn't against others. Guys face-to-face bump and run man and manning you, probably not the best route to run there. I know that stuff's boring to a lot of you. I get it. I understand it. That's the kind of stuff I watch and enjoy.
I'm sorry. I just want to see Greeny get speared. Please do that.
Well, Braun Breaker now on SportsCenter. WrestlePalooza coming up on Saturday. We'll talk about it tomorrow in the segment I Never Forget Fight Club. So I guess the takeaway from me, and I put this on Twitter a minute ago, kind of a long tweet there, but it sticks to me. I said I felt like there were 2 primary takeaways from the press, or 2 reactions. I shouldn't say takeaways. I should say reaction. Reaction number 1. It feels like Dabo's message was, we've won a bunch. And then in parentheses, so don't hold me accountable right now. And message number 2 was, if you're criticizing me right now, you're not a real fan. Which he said that part. That's a thing he said. He said, if you're criticizing, you're not all in. If you're all in, you burn the ships. And if you're not if you're criticizing right now, you're not all in, which to me is just another way of saying you're not a real Clemson fan. And I just don't think it was handled the right way for a dude who is facing not from any reasonable fan. Nobody's calling for your job. Nobody's asking you to be fired. Nobody's calling for termination. No reasonable fans are doing that.
I was going to say, I just jumped on X and just typed in Clemson football, and I did see some things.
Yeah.
And
no reasonable fans.
There are some fans out there. I would say I don't really disagree with anything he said. And you have, and I told you this off the air, you made me feel dirty because I have defended Dabo for the last 3 hours. And I just don't have a problem with anything he says because he's absolutely right. If you don't like winning, get rid of him. Remember what he used to be before he got there. Not to say the next coach they find would be even better. Probably not. The odds are the next coach you find is not going to do what he's done. And we went from thinking he's going to have a statue and be able to work there as long as he possibly could want to and retire a Clemson Tiger to now me thinking maybe he will end up leaving just to prove something.
So
will he be able to prove it? I don't know.
I don't either. And that would be a conversation for if/when that ever happens. Although he did say, hey, if you don't want me here, if you don't want me, and that's great.
He has never, I don't recall him ever saying that before. It's always, I'm a Clemson lifer. And him throwing that in there, that's something I don't recall ever hearing him say.
But here's the thing. You said no, other coaches may not be able to come in and do what Dabo's done. And that's fine. I think you're absolutely right. And here's the thought that I have. Here's the response question that I have, and then we got to go to a break. With what you're seeing right now, can Dabo do what Dabo has done? In the position he's at and the way he's running the team right now, can Dabo do what Dabo has done? Because my thought is, I'm assuming most Clemson fans don't want to get to a point where they're just a perennial 8-4 team anymore. And right now, it feels like, does anybody disagree with this sentiment? If nothing else, it feels like the trajectory is downward from where it was. That's not even an opinion. That's not subjective. Objectively, you're on a downward trend from where you were.
Here's
in
the
prime
thing.
Dabo.
I don't know if you're descending from a pinnacle or just on a roller coaster. I don't know.
And that's a gamble you got to take. But again, at the same time, that right there, that would be a better thing to say than to come out and go, well, if you're criticizing me, you're not a real fan. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I know there's a lot of people that I know that have been going to your games this year who consider themselves diehard fans that are criticizing you. You telling me those guys who spent $180 on a ticket to go see you play LSU aren't a real fan? I would push back on that.
Yeah, if they don't go, somebody else will, though.
All right, Texter says, I agree with you, Rob. After Dabo's presser, I think we get one of two results. Either Clemson come out and obliterate Syracuse, or the wheels really fall off the wagon. And Brian says in the chat, I can see nothing has changed from game to game too. Yeah, that's kind of the take for me is what's getting better? The answer, no. And if saying that out loud makes me a bad fan, well, then I'm glad I'm not a fan, because that's the evident truth to me right now. All right, when we come back, final hour of the show, we'll get away from this. We got to talk NFL. Panthers have two big, huge injury updates that are devastating to them. We'll get to that, talk a little BY, one particular number that jumped off at me, and more after a championship caliber sports flash.
Wow, repetitive. That's the same thing you said. But when you win, that's what you expect.
Don't criticize me or you're not a real fan.
Exactly. The Braves played a doubleheader against the Nationals yesterday, making up a rain game from back in May. In game one, Jose Suarez went 7 innings with 5 hits and 2 runs allowed while striking out 9 for a 6-3 win. In game two, Atlanta shut out Washington for a 5-0 extra inning win. Chris Sale threw 8 with 3 hits, striking out 9. The Seattle Mariners won their 10th straight, and catcher Kyle Riley set more records in a 12-5 win over Kansas City. Riley his 55th homer of the season. That's pretty good. In the second inning, passing Mickey Mantle's single-season homer record for switch hitters. Las Vegas Aces' 17-game win streak ended one shy of tying the all-time mark set by 2001 LA Sparks with an 86-83 loss in Game 2 of the series against the Seattle Storm. Storm closed the game on a 16-4 run. Asia Wilson had 21 points and 13 rebounds. Stumbled at the end.
traffic is also heavy. From the News Talk 98.9 WORD Traffic Center, I'm Bill Brooks on the Fan, Upstate. When your name's on a paint job, your primer better hold up. Painters trust Kills primers for serious adhesion, stain blocking, and a finish that lasts. Now, the full Kills lineup is available exclusively at the Home Depot. Need it fast? Get same day or next day delivery, or order online and pick it up in store. Kills primers, pro results, faster. The Home Depot. If you're a pro,
Suddenly 6 games from now, and they go undefeated for the next 6 games, all the people being critical will say, see, we got better because he did what I said. That's just how fandom works.
On Google and A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-275-2027. That's 800-275-2027.
If you are facing divorce, call Cordell and Cordell today. There's a lot on the line in divorce. This is Joe Cordell of Cordell and Cordell, the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. Divorce touches all areas of your life. Your home, savings, retirement, and of course, kids. So when you find yourself facing divorce, you need a partner you can count on.
If you are facing divorce, contact Cordell and Cordell today at 1-855-GET-LEGAL. That's 1-855-GET-LEGAL. 55 Beatty Greenville.
And now the sounds of football from Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers.
I forgot we have net and day at 9:20.
Good thing it's only 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Enjoy the taste of football too, with hand-tossed pies, hoagies, wings, meatballs, hot pretzels, and over 100 beers from around the world. Mellow Mushroom, 1 Augusta Street in Greenville's West End.
Believe it or not, there's a kitten season, and we're in the middle of it right now. If you find a tiny stray or a litter of kittens in your neighborhood, Greenville County Animal Care can help you learn what to do next. Text kittens to 864-467-3950 or go to greenvillepets.org. You'll get tons of info and advice on how to care for the little purr balls until they can find a
purr balls.
Text kittens to 864-467-3950 or go to greenvillepets.org. Yeah, I heard you.
Give your home a breath of fresh air.
Okay, that's a cute tag at the end of that commercial.
Mention this station and get up to $75 off duct cleaning services.
I just wonder how many takes it took.
Commercial cleaning too. Schedule online at zeroresgreenville.com. That's zeroresgreenville.com.
I'm Kiara Palazzolo, VP of Digital Marketing for the American Management Association, a company focused on the management training skills needed to enhance the careers of business professionals. We did our research when it came to the best companies for website development and chose AmericanEagle.com. We couldn't be happier. AmericanEagle.com worked closely with us to understand the front and back-end requirements needed to launch an e-commerce website that could handle the complexities of running thousands of seminars nationwide. A robust new website and improved SEO saw immediate increases in site traffic and web revenue. If you're in need of managerial effectiveness and success, visit our website at M&S
QC in the first break.
And 4.
That provides an unparalleled consumer experience. I highly recommend.
The way she says paralleled bothers me. Don't know why. Just does.
Check this out. For an official Rob Brown lockdown. Represents me to win. Yeah. Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. Lockdown. This is the Rob Brown Show.
Hey Rob, can I read an X post really quick?
Yes, of course.
It's from Des Bryant. Remember him?
I do remember Des Bryant.
He asked the question, should the Bengals go grab Shedeur Sanders?
You know what?
That's the only reason why I'm saying this. That's intriguing, isn't it?
I don't disagree. Now, I will say this. From a entertainment perspective, sure. Absolutely. From an entertainment perspective, abso-freaking-lutely.
You don't think he's better than Jake Browning?
From a football perspective, the answer is no. And here's my reason why. That offense isn't built for Shedeur Sanders. That offense is built for they are one of, I think, a small number of teams that are absolutely built for a pocket passer quarterback, for a guy that's going to hang in the pocket, step up in the pocket, and throw guys open. And I'm not saying that Shedeur can't be that guy, but I think we saw in the preseason that if the pocket tightens up on Shedeur, he still wants to take off and run. That's fine. He's got the athleticism to do it. But you got to have an offense that's built for that. And I don't think the Bengals are. As much as I do not think that he is necessarily the right answer to keep you alive for 3 months until Joe Burrow comes back, I do think he is the guy that probably is available and that best fits what the Bengals are. Kirk Cousins. I think he's the best fit for that team right now. If the arm is healthy, if he can win the football, if he can win the football, I think he is the best option for that team right now. All right, I want to talk Panthers for just a moment right now, and we do have Denton Day coming up in the next segment, as he does every Wednesday during the college football season. We got Denton Day of Sirius XM joining us in the very next segment. We'll get his thoughts on the Dabo Sweeney press conference. We'll get his thoughts on where Clemson and South Carolina are both after losses, as well as the perspective on the big picture in all of college football. Denton Day of College Football Overtime on Sirius XM joins us on the live stream in the next segment. So let's talk a little Pro Bowl here for just a minute. The team you play for matters. The equipment that is built around you matters when you are a quarterback in the National Football League. I want to read you the statistics of two quarterbacks through 2 games this year. This is only 2 games, and it is only this year. 2 quarterbacks, both have a record of 0-2-0. Obviously, one of these guys is Bryce Young. Like, I'm not talking about that. Let's see if you can figure out who the other guy is. Completion percentage. Bryce Young, 59%. Mystery quarterback, 62%. Passing yards. Bryce Young, 482 yards through 2 games. Mystery quarterback, 395 through 2 games. Yards per attempt. Bryce Young, 5.4. CJ Stroud, 7.7. Passing yards per game. Bryce Young, 241. CJ Stroud, 197.
You know, you went from mystery to just saying the name of the other quarterback.
Did I just say his name out loud?
Yeah, twice. You said CJ Stroud twice.
So the mystery quarterback, in case you haven't guessed, this thinly veiled, mysterious man is CJ Stroud. Bryce Young, 4 passing touchdowns, CJ Stroud 1. Picks, 3 for BY, 1 for CJ Stroud. This is a dude who a couple of years ago was being labeled the face of the franchise. Maybe the future face of the National Football League. CJ Stroud has obviously been to the playoffs. He's obviously won a playoff game. But I am also going to point out,
he's actually won more than a handful of games.
Yes, he's won a bunch of games. I am also going to point out what I pointed out at the time, that CJ Stroud in their rookie year was, hey, look, you busted, you missed out on the right guy. Because I've heard that talk start to bubble back up to the surface to some degree in the last couple of days, week or so. When CJ Stroud got to the Houston Texans, I said at the time, and I said a number of times throughout the season, here's what's happening. You have brought CJ Stroud to a team that at the time, and this has changed, because what was my preseason outlook on the Houston Texans? O-line stinks. CJ Stroud's not going to look as good. That when CJ Stroud got to the Houston Texans, the offensive line was dramatically better. The defense that was supporting him was unquestionably dramatically better. Really, the only thing that they had in common was that both of them had themselves brand new head coaches. However, even in that, there was a major difference. The major difference in the Houston Texans in CJ's rookie year versus Bryce Young's rookie year with the Panthers was that while BY was going with the new coach, that was not the right guy. And although I got it wrong at the time, it became evident about 3 games into that year that that's not the right guy. On the flip side, what did the Houston Texans do that year? Yes, they had a new coach, but they went and got themselves a defensive coach in D'Amico Ryans. So what did they do on the offensive side of the ball? They built a staff of successful dudes and said, we're gonna figure this thing out around CJ Stroud. And they built the team to him. I did not feel that that was the case with Bryce Young. Now we are here a couple of years later. BY's got a coach who now has 1 year and 2 games, but 1 year of 2 games in experience. He's got a little bit more with Brad Idzik as the offensive coordinator, not play caller, but coordinator, a little bit more of an open system, I think. And what did they do? They started to build the team around the offense. That is why Teteroa McMillan is in town. And oh, by the way, Teteroa McMillan kind of looks like a dog a little bit. Now, they got it wrong with Xavier Legette. I am now, unfortunately, in on Xavier Legette as a dude that I want to go hang around, ride horses, and hunt raccoons with. Out on him as an NFL wide receiver. I don't know if you know this or not. Xavier Legette, this past weekend against Arizona, set a bit of NFL history. Now, it's one of those stats that, like, you go, who in the hell has ever cared or set up to follow that? But here we are. This past weekend, Bryce Young, when targeting Xavier Legette, 1 of 8 for -2 yards. Xavier Legette is the first wide receiver in the history of the National Football League to have 8 or more targets in a game and have negative receiving yards. -2 receiving yards, 1 of 8. When targeting everybody else on the team, Bryce Young was 34 of 42 for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. If I told you going into that game, BY was 34 of 42 for 330 and 3 tutties, honestly, I'd have expected they win the game, but they didn't. Now, I've also pointed out the come from behind victory, not as impressive to me as a lot of people made it out to be, because I think if you, again, this is one of those nerds watch the film takes. Go watch the film and what Arizona was doing on defense. First half, a lot of blitzes, bringing 5, sometimes 6, always 4. Second half, during the comeback, bringing 3, sometimes 4, never 5. Playing soft coverage, playing back, effectively playing a game-long prevent defense until Carolina got the onside kick down 5 with an opportunity to drive and score the game-winning touchdown. Then the Cardinals defense went back to what they did in the first half, and all of a sudden the Panther offense went back to looking inept. One of the reasons why was because one of my keys to the Panther season was that the offensive line, which I thought coming into the year on paper had potential to be one of the best 5 offensive lines in football. Pro Football Focus have them ranked, if I recall correctly, number 8 coming into the year. I said coming into the year, I thought 8 was too low just on paper, and that by the end of the year, they would be probably a top 5 offensive line. In game number 1, the Panthers graded out to be about the 21st best offensive line in week 1. Now, again, it's week 1. It's sample size of nothing. It's a sample size of 1 game. But 1 game matters when you're playing 1 game at a time. This past weekend against Arizona, is there anybody out there that would give the Panthers offensive line better than a C- against Arizona? Because I absolutely would not. They got whooped. They got worked. Well, they blitzed a lot. Okay, cool. You're the offensive line. Like, you can't go, oh, yeah, we gave up a sack, but only when they blitzed. Yeah, that's kind of the most important part of your job, is to protect BY when they are bringing the blitz. And then earlier this week, we've gotten the news that Austin Corbett and right guard Robert Hunt are now headed to injured reserve after they sustained injuries in that loss to the Cardinals. Both will be ruled out for the next 4 weeks. The door is not closed on a return, but they will be out for at least 4 weeks. Corbett re-injured the MCL in his left knee, the same one he tore the ACL in during the 2022 finale, and had a subsequent MCL injury in the 2023 season on his return. Robert Hunt suffered a left torn biceps and left the stadium in a sling Sunday night before getting an MRI. We are waiting on an update on that. Now, if there is any good news for the Carolina Panthers, it is that one of the last questions that I asked Rashad Beard, the host of the Panther Nation podcast, before the season started. I said, look, I am a little bit concerned about the depth of the offensive line. And Rashad Beard said, I'm going to push the pause button on that because we have got, and he mentioned two guys specifically by name, Chandler Zavala and Cade Mays. Those are the two guys that are coming in to start. Zavala will play the guard spot for Robert Hunt. Cade Mays will replace Austin Corbett at center. Mays also replaced Corbett last year at center when he had a torn biceps tendon, started 8 of the 9 last games. Hey, what happened in most of those 8 of the last 9 games? Panthers look like a real NFL team for just a minute. We'll find out what's next. But I'm simply going to point out that when I got on the Panthers message board, because I am absolutely a fanatic, not of the team, of your message boards. I'm always a fanatic of message boards of bad teams because fans are ridiculous and I love them ever so much. The offensive line is now banged up from where it was in week number 1. An offensive line that was already underperforming. I very much hope that Rashad Beard is right, that Chandler Zavala just needs an opportunity to get in there and prove he's absolutely a starter. And I hope that he is right, that Cade Mays is one of the most dependable backup offensive lines in the league, because both of those guys are not just going to start, but they are going to be starting for at least 4 weeks. And with a torn biceps for Robert Hunt, at least, probably longer than that. I hope they earn the right to start through the rest of the year. But there's that. And there's the aforementioned statistic about BY. Only NFL player in history to be targeted 8 times in a game and have negative receiving yards. There was a throw to Xavier Legette on the outside from BY, which I will acknowledge because, again, I am not, capital N, capital O, capital T, not defending the play of Bryce Young right now. He is not up to snuff. He does not look like he did at the end of last year. I think a lot of that has to do with an offensive line that falls apart in front of him. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Hunter Renfrow and Tetaroa McMillan are about the only 2 consistent, trustworthy pass catchers you have in this offense right now. But there was a throw BY made on the outside to Xavier Legette, who was open at that point. It was a short pass. It was like a 2-3 short yard, quick out to Legette that hit Legette in the shins. And the reaction I had wasn't, come on, BY, you got to make a better throw. The reaction I had was, yeah, you probably wouldn't have caught it anyway. Not ideal. I'm going to tell you where I'm at right now with this football team, and then we got to run to a break because Denton Day of College Football Overtime on SiriusXM is joining us in the next segment. Here's where I am with this team. I expect nothing for the next 2 weeks. I expect nothing. Would I like to see them go out and compete? Absolutely. Would I like to see them go out and get a win? Yes. But I expect nothing out of this team the next couple of weeks. And I'll tell you what the trigger is for me, where I go, okay, you have to turn it on now. These next 2 weeks, you have got an Atlanta team that looks pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. And you've got a Patriots team that beat Miami this weekend. Now, Miami stinks, but they beat Miami. And you're on the road in New England, in Foxborough for that one. Here's where I'm at. Use these next 2 games to get the offense clicking. Figure it out. I expect it when Jalen Coker comes back. That's going to be my landing point. When Jalen Coker gets back in this offense, when I've got our guy that can replace, not Hunter Renfrow, but can replace Xavier Legette in the offense, that's the spot where I'll say, now it's time. Now it's time to mash the accelerator. And if you don't mash it now, I don't think it can be mashed. We will have to have a complete and total reevaluation of this football team. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, the illustrious Denton Day, the host of College Football Overtime on Sirius XM, will join us. We'll get his thoughts on Dabo's press conference, where the Tigers are after the loss to Georgia Tech, where the Gamecocks are after the loss to Vanderbilt and of Lenora Sellers. We'll also check in on the rest of the national powerhouses in college football with Denton Day of Sirius XM next on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stay right there. We got a live read. We're back right after this. Denton Day, you magnificent son of a gun. How you doing, buddy?
Yo, what's going on?
Oh, living the dream. I unmuted my mic. That's why. There we go. Got it fixed.
I'm about to say, I hear you twice. I love your voice, but I hear you twice.
Nobody loves it that much.
I know I didn't enjoy it. That was panic.
How was your football weekend, pal? I unfortunately did not get the opportunity to tune in and listen any Saturday.
That's perfectly okay because I wasn't on Saturday night. I did a swap with Saturday morning.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I would have been able to listen to that. Let me know. I'm a big Denton Day guy over here.
Yeah, definitely. It was a little last second. It worked there. I had a half marathon on Sunday. That unfortunately did not go that well, but nevertheless.
I was just watching Ric Flair plank in a restaurant for 4 minutes. I don't know if it was on a dare or what. It just out of the blue. And there were like kids walking around him and stuff. People trying to get around him to get to
people
seats.
trying to get around him.
It's like, okay.
2025. That's classic Flair.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's either a drunken dare, which is what I believe it was, or he just needs money so bad he'll just like, I'll do it for 25.
The Rob Brown Show is back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate every Wednesday morning at 9:20 a.m. We take a metaphorical road trip on up the road to the greater Washington, D.C. area to welcome in a friend on the air and off, a true titan of the industry. He is the host of College Football Overtime on Sirius XM. Ladies and gentlemen, the illustrious Denton Day joining us on the program. Big Dog! How we feeling after week 3/4/ however we label them nowadays?
I'm feeling good. Probably a little bit better than Clemson is feeling after the events of this weekend. I had a lot of fun. They didn't, but I certainly did.
Let's jump right into that. And I want to get your thoughts on if you got a chance to see most all of Dabo's presser yesterday, because that's obviously kind of the big news around here today. But the game itself, I called back in May, June, that this Georgia Tech team, even if Clemson was everything everybody thought they were going to be, which so far they're not, that this was still a potential upset, because I think Jamal Haynes King, couple of dogs over there, and I think Brent Key, a football dude that lives, sleeps, eats, breathes it. These are the types of games that a guy like that is going to get the best out of his team, much like Clark Lee at Vanderbilt over in South Carolina this weekend. What was your 36,000-foot takeaway from that game? Is it on Cade Klubnik? Is it on the defense? Is it just that Haynes King's that good? Like, what was your biggest takeaway or two from that loss?
So more positively, the biggest takeaway was that Georgia Tech is really good. And I think that's a much easier take to have, just because it looked like Haynes King was the best quarterback on the field. There had not been a ton of games where he's playing, adequate competition where he is the best quarterback, and he was. I think the negative side is that what was Clemson doing? And why is Cade Klubnik taking so long to be a guy that we thought was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football this year, and a guy that we were told by various different outlets this offseason that he could be a top 10 pick in the upcoming NFL draft? Because what I've seen from him is none of those things. I've seen what he described on a podcast from his own lips, that people want me to suck. Well, he's a man of the people, apparently, because he's not been all that impressive. And I think that's been the biggest takeaway, is that we expected continuity with the offense. We saw him turn a corner last year, but had the very accurate assessment of, well, they're not playing anybody in the ACC in what was a weaker ACC year last year. Well, now the ACC is rising, which you knew they would. Like, the ACC was not always going to be as bad as it was for the past couple of years. We knew eventually that some teams were going to step up and rise to the occasion. We are seeing Georgia Tech as being one of those teams. So I actually thought it was more about Georgia Tech than it was negatively about Clemson, but there is a negative side to this for Georgia Tech, Rob. This is a long-term play, but it is negative. If you're too good and you don't have money, your coach is going to get picked. And there's teams that are going to be firing their head coaches, Florida, that have a lot of money, and they're very, very enticing places to go coach at. So it is a little bit negative from that standpoint. Now, they should have money because they got a bunch of dorks over there, and dorks usually make a lot of money when they graduate from a school like Georgia Tech. But that's like the one bad side if you're a Georgia Tech fan. Like, hey, we beat Clemson. This is awesome, and someone's going to steal our head coach.
As a self-professed dork, I don't take offense to that. From college football overtime on Sirius XM here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. The Cade Klubnik thing that you were talking about.
No, that's for him, not for you.
No, we know.
Okay, all right.
The Cade Klubnik thing you were talking about. I heard the press conference yesterday. Maybe we can work this in here, where and Dabo's defended Cade a number of times so far this season, and he dropped if you're criticizing now, you're not all in, you're not a real fan, which kind of bothered me a little bit. I've kind of been going after that angle almost more than anything else, Denton Day. But the thought I had here is one of two things has to be true. Either A, Cade Klubnik hasn't been developed to the spot that most, and I'll put me in that group of people that said, I think the dude's going to have a stud year. The numbers from last year said that. Either he hasn't been developed to that point, which is on Dabo and the coaching staff, or that's not his ceiling. His ceiling is just what we're seeing right now. He can go beat the hell out of lower level teams, but is going to be a barely above 500 quarterback against Power 5 competition, in which case this is now back-to-back quarterbacks missed on by a staff that strung 5 really good ones together before DJ Uiagalelei. What's your take on Cade Klubnik and where he is? Are either one of those options true, or is there a third one I'm missing?
Can it be both options are true? Because I think he's reached his ceiling, and I think that's largely due to the fact that they can't develop him more than he already has been developed, and that's a scary thing because at a point in time they were the top of the mountain in college football, and I do think that there needs to be some recognition from Dabo himself that they're not there anymore. And if you're not at the top of the mountain, you can't necessarily be in a place where you give yourself the benefit of the doubt the way that he seems to be doing. Like when I listened to what he said about if you're not, if you're doubting us, you're not all in, and whatever that nonsense is. College football coaches, as you know, Rob, are very, very powerful people. They are the most important person on a college campus. It's not the president, it's not the athletic director, it's the college football coach. And they're used to having all of the power, and they're used to everything kind of being what they want it to be. So when you get some criticism from the outside, you feel maybe a certain kind of way about it. I do think there's a complacency within the Clemson program, because if this was years ago and they were at the top of the mountain, I do think there would be some massive changes made. Some adjustment would be taking place to make sure that they're not losing 2 games in the first 3 weeks of the season. I just don't think they realize what they are as a program right now, and I think Dabo is he's a little frightened of that, because we see him way more frequently back into the corner, right? And this felt to me like he was backing into the corner and he was entering fight or flight mode, and it's a little too early to be entering fight or flight mode in the 2025 season.
No, I agree with that entirely. Here's the thing. I've had a couple of Clemson fans so far this morning, Denton Day, that have said, well, now we just got to go win the ACC. But I think the point that's been missed is you're now behind the 8 ball in that conference with that loss. And, oh, by the way, I'm not saying I was right. A lot of football left, but this conference doesn't look like the powder puff a lot of people thought it was going to be. They're not the SEC, but they're not. Florida State, again, only 2 games, but they beat the hell out of an Alabama team that has turned around and beat the hell out of 2 teams since then. They hung 70 on a cupcake school, as you would expect from a great team. Miami has ranked wins. Maybe that Notre Dame game doesn't look quite as impressive as it did in week 1, but it's still a good win. They also took the number 18 ranked USF Bulls to town this weekend. I'm not out on Louisville just yet. There's wild cards out there. And of course, there is Georgia Tech, who now has the tiebreaker over Clemson if those 2 teams tie up. I don't think the road to an ACC championship game is anything less than rocky for the Tigers now.
Yeah, you can't control your own destiny anymore. And it's September. That's a tough spot to be in for a team that traditionally is in control of their own destiny. You play Florida State, so you can, if you handle Florida State, boom, you at least put yourself ahead of them. But if you look at the schedules, Rob, Georgia Tech and Miami don't play one another. So there's no real guarantee that one, if not both of those 2 teams are going to end up having 1 ACC loss. There's a realistic possibility that they end up running the table in the conference. And if they run the table and you have 1 loss, well, that's 2 teams with no losses and you have 1 loss. You're going to be on the outside looking in, and that makes it very, very difficult. Now, is the likelihood that Georgia Tech and Miami both run the table? No, but you are now behind that 8 ball, as you mentioned, and you can't control what those 2 teams do moving forward because you don't play Miami. So it's a tough spot to be in. I ultimately do think there's still an avenue for Clemson to get to the ACC championship game, and if you get there and then win it, obviously you get into the college football playoff. But again, this is way too early for them to really have to lock into every game from this point forward as a must-win.
I don't disagree. I think Clemson at this point, you got to beat Florida State, and you got to hope like hell Florida State beats Miami is basically kind of the easiest path. Georgia Tech's ACC slate has Wake, Virginia Tech, who just fired Brent Pry, Duke, who maybe it was Mike Elko's guys, and it wasn't Manny Diaz. We'll see. Syracuse, NC State, Boston College. If I was going to design an ACC schedule to go undefeated through,
it's
pretty
one.
much that, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the one. So you lose to them, and you're looking like, man, like who's gonna beat them? I mean, Georgia Tech would really have to screw something up to not go unbeaten with that schedule. Either that or someone has to play like their ass is on fire in like November randomly for them to not go unbeaten in that schedule. And you should have known that ahead of time. I don't know how much the Clemson coaching staff looks too deep into the future. You know, coaches tell us all the time we're worried about who's in front of us right now and nothing more. I do think you should probably hire someone on the staff to say, hey, we should just make sure that we're aware of what the future is going to look like the rest of the way, depending on each of these results.
All right, let's flip over to South Carolina in the Southeastern Conference here for just a minute. Kind of a very similar situation. This was a game I absolutely said the Gamecocks are on upset alert. Clark Lee, kind of a similar situation. What is wrong with me? As Brent Key, big-time football dude, hell of a motivator. Diego Pavi, an absolute dog, especially in games like this when he is being told you're the second-best quarterback on the field. This home field advantage is unwinnable for Vanderbilt, etc. It's not a bad loss for South Carolina. I don't even mind the loss so much. My takeaway, Denton Day, was after Lenore Sellers went down, it looked like this team didn't have a single bit of dog in them, and that's supposed to be the identity of this team. What was your takeaway from the South Carolina-Vanderbilt game?
Yeah, once Sellers was gone, it was over. And that's a tough spot to be in. It's an understandable spot to be in because if you think that Lenore Sellers is a top 5 quarterback in the nation, there's naturally going to be a massive drop-off between him and whoever is behind him. But I didn't expect that everyone else on the team was going to roll over. Is kind of cliche at times, it feels like, Rob. Like everybody rolls over, but that's kind of what they did. Yeah, they just didn't have a lot of fight left in them. I think you can, if Lenore Sellers is back and healthy and they continue to win games with Lenore Sellers as quarterback, you can very easily point to this game and you have an out and say, hey, our quarterback did not play in the second or a majority of this game, but look what we did ever since he got back and look how good we've been since he got back. So this was more a fluke than anything. So you have an out there if you're South Carolina, which is beneficial to have, but it was a little alarming how without their quarterback, they look like honestly, they look like what they've been for a long, long time in the SEC, which is more of a bottom half of the conference kind of team.
I don't disagree. And again, like, I got a lot of belief in Vandy. I don't think Vandy's done. I think there's another big upset down the road for the Vanderbilt Commodores as well. Like, I think that loss could be made to look better than it is if Vandy does get another Bama snipe or Oklahoma snipe or whatever down the line. That being said, for a team that the one thing I did not think I was going to question at all this year to be the fight, to be the character, whatever words you want to use there, that's the least offensive, I guess. I was just disappointed in that. And I will say, a road trip to Mizzou this weekend, which is a team I would have said this is a South Carolina's favorite game before the season started. If Lenore Sellers can't go because it is a long-lasting concussion and they've got to go with Luke Doty or whichever backup, Air Nolan, whoever they got to go with, if that same team shows up against Mizzou, that's back-to-back Southeastern Conference losses, and there is no playoffs in this team's future.
Correct, right. And so the nice thing about them is that they do have opportunities at redemption because they got a pretty tough schedule, as you know, after that Kentucky game, which follows Missouri. So they'll have opportunities to really showcase themselves, assuming that Lenore Sellers is back and healthy and firing on all cylinders at that point, but you can find yourself in a position where you take back-to-back losses in September. I mean, really any sort of loss in September can really derail a team. We saw that with Ole Miss. We're seeing that with Clemson now, and those are just two examples. We've seen that with time and time again with certain teams across the nation. You can't find yourself losing back-to-back games in the month of September. Even if you do have the out of, hey, our top quarterback isn't playing, that just puts yourself really behind the 8 ball, and especially when those are two conference losses.
I said before the season, Denton Day, that I think South Carolina is in an interesting position. This is a silver linings view, but South Carolina could theoretically be a 9-3 Southeastern Conference team that rides those SEC brownie points to being the first 9-3 at-large team to get in, depending on who those 3 are to and who the 9 are against. However, I will say now, a loss to Mizzou or Kentucky, right out the window.
right out the window. I have been a firm believer that we will see a 3-loss team in this year, and I do think that team will be out of the SEC. But if you lose to either Mizzou or Kentucky, you will not be that team. I kind of think it's going to be Oklahoma, just because they have a gauntlet of a schedule too, and they have a really good quarterback. So I think Oklahoma might be that team, but I don't think Oklahoma is going to be losing any of those 3 games to a team like Kentucky.
Very fair. Denton Day joining us here on the show for another minute or two. Let me ask you, Notre Dame 0-2, ranked 24. We good with that? We're not good with that. We're not good with that, right?
We're not good with that at all. Somebody needs to give you an explanation as to why they are 0-2, and an explanation preferably that is more than, well, look at how good their losses are. Can you get a win, please? Like, can we get? If we're at the end of September, midway to the end of September, I would at least like to see a 1 in the win column. If you're going to be ranked, I don't care that you had good losses; they were still losses. It's not my fault that you did not schedule somebody between your 2 good losses. You need a win if you want to be ranked. They're in a whole lot of jeopardy. I don't think they're going to make the college football playoff because I do think at some point there's going to be another loss on their schedule, and they don't have a conference championship. They should probably do their best to get in a conference. It would make their life a whole lot easier.
Yeah, but the paycheck might go down, and that's, at the end of the day, the ultimate goal. Last one for you, Denton Day. I asked this question to me yesterday, and my answer to this question was not yet. Not no, but not yet. Is there an elite team in college football? Because I think Ohio State's very good. I don't see it there. Penn State, very good. I don't see it there. I think, frankly, LSU might be a little bit overrated. Miami, still have some question marks about. Those quality wins look like they've downshifted a bit to me. Is there an elite team in college football so far through 3 weeks?
I am with you in that I don't think there is one yet, but I do see a multitude of teams that have the potential. The biggest one right now is a team that you did not mention, and that's Oregon. I think Oregon has looked really, really good. Now, I am upset at them because I had them laying 27.5, and they allowed Northwestern 2 garbage time touchdowns to rob me of some money. But I do think Oregon is in a position where once we start to see them play good teams, and we'll get that next weekend, Oregon and Penn State is going to be a doozy of a matchup in 2 weeks. That will be a real telltale sign. But I think Oregon right now looks like the one team that I could say they're on the verge to becoming an elite football team this year.
Denton Day, host College Football Overtime on Sirius XM. He is also a host and producer on the BetMGM network. He's also just a hell of a guy. Thanks for coming by, big fella. Let's do it again next week with a little more drama.
Got the microphone working, got the mustache flowing. It's a good week. See you, fellas.
You know what? I didn't even bring up
I was waiting.
I didn't even
I don't want to be the guy.
Wife's out of town, so I get a little bit of freedom with the facial hair when she's
So is this a common thing?
Mine is too. Denton Day, do you want to just do nothing for
I'm talking about the facial hair.
Oh yeah, no, I'm
what you have said you're going to do.
I'm full clean shaven tonight because the wife's out of town and I'm relatively sure she's gonna hate it. So I'm just knocking it out while she's gone for a week. Same thing.
Yeah, mine's gone for a week and I shaved it and I told her, I was like, hey, there will be stubble enough when you get back to justify the decision. And she was like,
I gotta tell you, buddy,
okay.
If she looks at that and she doesn't fall right back in even more love with you, you might need to upgrade your taste in women. Because
I got to be honest, today is actually the best day, the best it's looked. So I picked a real good day to come on with you.
Host of College Football Overtime on Sirius XM, host and producer on the BetMGM network, and guy who I'm probably going to play a lot of college football on Xbox with over the next 6 days because our wives are out of town. Ladies and gentlemen, the illustrious, the legendary Denton Day. Big fella, talk to you next week, brother.
See you, fellas.
Denton Day. We are back after this. We'll react to some of Denton's thoughts. We'll take some of yours as well. We'll conclude our thoughts on the Dabo Swinney presser. We'll talk South Carolina. We'll talk Carolina Panthers. Who knows what we'll talk about as we wrap up the Rob Brown Show next here on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stay right there. We'll be right back in just a minute. joining us in that last segment. I will post that interview later on.
It was a nice mustache. It really was.
It was a really nice mustache.
I don't think that you could do that. I mean, because it's really.
I can't do a mustache.
Yeah, it was very full. It was like, I don't know.
Unfortunately, I have the white trash bald spot that goes under the nose. Like the mustache doesn't connect for me.
Is that what they call that?
Yes, it's the white trash dead spot right under the nose. So I can't do. I wish I could just do generic mustache A because I entirely and totally would, but I can't. I can't do it. The best I can do is like the soul patch goatee, but even that's not a great look because I got real wiry facial hair, right? Like I don't have that like good bushy grow. Like I don't have Diesel's beard. Like I got to keep the beard down and trim so you can't see how bad it is.
Not many people do have Diesel's beard.
That's also true. That's also true. 844-326-3663. If you want to sneak in here before the end of the show, we have done today a lot of breakdown of the Dabo Swinney press conference from yesterday. Final take on it from me is this. First and foremost, I think the people who only dialed in on the 6 or 7 minutes where Dabo was, I think, stepping over a couple of lines, I think go to some direction with a couple of exceptions. I think do so because they like to beat up on Dabo Swinney. And I've told you, Clemson fan, many times. It does not matter what the rest of the nation says, but the rest of the nation does love beating up on Dabo Swinney. For the record, they love beating up on any coach that is successful that's not their own. Why do you think so many people are taking so much joy in the downfall? They're still a good team, but the not dominance of Alabama. It's because of Nick Saban. Nick Saban's not even there, but they're enjoying it. So that's kind of part and parcel with having the success that you've had. But I had 2 gut reactions to this presser. Number one, the history lesson about the success of Clemson under Dabo Swinney, I didn't need it. Because I'm not saying, hey, 2020 was a bad year for you. I'm saying 2025. You don't need to convince me that 2020, 2018, hell, 2017 through 21 were good years. We know that they were. You won the conference a lot of times. You played in 4 national championship games. You won 2 of them. Like, of course it was a golden time. Nobody's questioning that. What we're questioning is the ability to do that again now. And as I've said a million times about college football and kids, listen to Uncle Rob, everything in life. If you're not moving forward, you're getting passed by people who are. Every year that you fail to live up to expectations is a year where another team somewhere else, Georgia Tech, takes a step towards replacing you on the podium. And I don't think any of you want to go back to relive the Tommy Bowden years. Second thing, Dabo, don't blame the fans, dude. They have nothing to do with what your football team does. Do not blame the fans and say they're not real fans because they criticize you. Quite the opposite. They criticize you because they are real fans and they love the success you've brought.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
Wow, I was told there'd be no more Dabo. Oh, wow.
It felt like a good minute and 45 seconds to wrap on.
All right. The first thing that is Xing is not Dabo. It's Tom Brady.
Tom Brady's Xing because there's a bit of controversy going on. If you did not watch the Monday Night Football game that the Las Vegas Raiders played in, Tommy Brady was not just at the game, but he was in the box wearing a headset, participating in team activities. Fine, no problem. He's a partial owner. He can do that. The problem is that next week, Tom Brady is calling a game for Fox. What game is he calling? The Chicago Bears game. Who do the Raiders play the week after that? The Chicago Bears. So now there are a number of NFL teams that are going, wait. This guy gets all this extra inside information and all this extra stuff that he gets to do as a broadcaster, but then he gets to go sit in the box and effectively be a de facto assistant offensive coach for the team in games against teams that he is in production meetings for, broadcasting for. I got to tell you, I'm a Tom Brady guy, but I think those NFL teams very much have a valid point. That should either be a broadcaster or be a team owner. But I as much as I love Tommy B, I think he's got to pick a lane here.
Wow. All the vitriol towards Tom Brady, I'm all for. And it's warranted and necessary. All right, the next thing that's Xing is Anaconda.
The Anaconda is Xing because it don't want none unless you got buns, hun. I have no idea why that's trending.
Wow. I was wondering if you would go there. All right, so the trailer just dropped for the new Anaconda movie with Jack Black and Paul Rudd. They are Anaconda is their favorite movie. They're going to film and like an Anaconda sequel, except they start getting attacked by a real anaconda. So it actually turns into a horror movie.
I hate horror movies, however.
I saw the trailer. I don't know if it's funny or not without being able to hear it.
Yeah.
But it looked messed up.
Well, okay, let's start with it's got Paul Rudd and Jack Black.
I know.
Right?
I know.
Like those guys those guys can make serious movies that are funny movies. Not a horror movie guy if this does go horror and not like the OG Anaconda. I love Jack Black. I love Paul Rudd enough. I might be willing to go check this one out.
Yeah, I saw one of the deaths, and I don't know what the verbal reaction is. So I'm going to wait because that will change everything. If he says something comical after someone died, then it's a comedy.
Also, is Paul Rudd a vampire? I feel like Paul Rudd's a vampire.
Possibly it'll catch up to him eventually.
Yeah, there's an oil painting of Paul Gray in somebody's attic from the 1600s. I'm convinced.
All right, the next thing it's Xing is Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins Xing, I'm assuming because he showed up on SportsCenter for Seth Rollins pretty much just is an ESPN analyst at this point. And I don't hate him for it. I'd do the same damn thing.
He was on with Stephen A, who's all by himself. He was on with Stephen A and said it well and his what is he now? Soothsayer? I don't know what Paul Heyman is called now. I forget.
The Oracle.
The Oracle. He was on with his Oracle. And he said that before all things are said and done, that he will be on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
Hey, subscribe. I like a guy with the little confidence.
Will he be?
I can say yeah, and I'll tell you why. It's not just because he's champ for the whatever time he is champ now. I mean it when I say there were two guys who carried us through the COVID area. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins were those guys. I would say, yes, he earned a spot because of that. Scratch that. I will say if he has the longevity of a Hogan, yes, he will be on there.
All right, final thing. Xing is NXT Homecoming.
Tiffany Stratton's off the card now. Is that what I read yesterday?
It was yesterday. It already happened.
Oh, okay.
It was amazing. I saw most of it.
Who filled in for
her? Lyra Valkyria. Because Tiffany Stratton got hurt.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
That she finished the match was surprising.
Yeah, it took bumps to finish the match was surprising. Did you hear the audio from Baker Mayfield after he took to the podium? It's our new clip.
Yes.
That was his post-game press conference.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I love it so much. Hey, thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you didn't, it's your own fault because we're real good at this. But come back tomorrow. We'll do it totally differently and see if you like it tomorrow. Have a great day. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face for Lonzo. I'm Rob. See you back here tomorrow on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Later.
I know, Austin. That's why I said that. That's why I said he's all by himself.
In fairness, Stephen A. Smith probably thinks that Stephen A. Smith is good enough to host the two-man debate show by himself.
Probably.
He probably thinks he's good enough to pull that off.
He's got enough money to film himself arguing with himself. They could do that.
It's true. He could just make an AI Stephen A. Smith. Oh, I have a story for us tomorrow. I didn't get to it today. But apparently a minor league baseball team in California has toyed with the idea of going to exclusively an AI manager. And I hate it. I want you to know that before we get to that story. I hate it.
Sounds just like wrestling, doesn't it?
It does. Everything's wrestling. I won somebody over with the argument last weekend that everything is wrestling because everything is wrestling. Hey, that's it for us, dudes. My wife's out of town, so I have to go home and let my dogs out so that my new dog doesn't destroy my house. It's fun. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed it. You're all amazing people. Those of you that come in the stream, you're the P1s of the P1s. Come back tomorrow. Share it with your friends. Tell your friends about us. We're trying to get rich, famous, and retired. Adios.